Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to a GeekVerse review. I am the Baron Trasnell, and I'm joined by.
I'm the Duke, Kirklin Patzer.
I am the Desert Power Taylor Field.
And I'm the Animar caster, Dylan Musk.
You know what? Next time we'll just choose to make sure we go in like alphabetical
Taylor
order.
never likes to go last.
Well, and it's we have
I
like,
feel
a
like a
strange
guest
record.
now, so I feel like I should go last. Like I'm so out of it that I don't know. I feel like I should be fourth in line.
Well, and I feel like sometimes we just do this flawlessly, where I say, "Oh, it's so and so," and then we just boom, 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 and then times there's like a pause, whatnot. But you know, guess what? The audio people, they barely hear it. We chopped out everything.
Oh, yeah.
Taylor Field, we got lots popping off. We got other reviews coming out. We got a 24 Actual Life charity stream. We got Eternals. Lots of things happening. We just crowned a new winner, which I'll put you on the spot. Is there a new poll coming after the Halloween one? I know I see the fans chiming for the one you promised last year.
Well, I didn't promise it last year. I promised we'll do it. I will do the Smash Bros. Poll after they finish adding all the characters. And
Well,
Kingdom Hearts is the final character, right? As far as I know. So
yeah.
What are you gonna say?
There was a couple people in the comments when you announced Michael. They're like Smash Bros, because on record in public you said like we were doing that. So I think people are expecting that.
It's gonna
soon.
happen. It's gonna happen. But then someone gave me the great idea of a Christmas poll. And I thought, it only comes once a year. We can do Smash any time of the year after Christmas. So I feel like Christmas needs to happen. You gotta get Harry, you gotta get Marv, you gotta get Tim Allen in there.
Yeah, we got a good this is some spoilers, but I think like we got a good lineup if we do Christmas, Smash, and then you got Harry Potter and Jurassic World because those movies are coming out. So we got a Murder's Row poll. Taylor's not looking forward to the Harry Potter one. I feel like that's a lot of
that's not as much as Game of Thrones. Like maybe it will be as many characters as Game of Thrones. Probably
how
more.
How many characters does Smash have now in total? Dylan, do you know off the top of your head? This roster, how many? Go.
In the direct they said there's 89. I think there's a couple I think there's a couple asterisks on that, but it's let's just say close to 90.
That's at least 6 months. 6 months of my life right there. Every night at 6 p.m.
Yeah. Where can they find that all, Taylor Field?
They can find that on our social media. GeekVerse.ca is our home base. GeekVerse is our Twitter. GeekVerse is our Facebook. And thank you for sharing out the polls because as of yesterday, the newest fan base champion has been declared. Michael Myers beat out Freddy by a whopping double-digit vote. I don't even know what the final tally was.
I didn't think Freddy was going to win, but I didn't think it was going to go that bad. I thought he'd have a better chance. But, Michael does have
previously in a poll years ago.
We did a Halloween Redux one. Taylor ran it back. He put in some new characters. It was also just the fans badgering him.
Who won it last time, the Halloween one?
Jason, but Jason wasn't in this one. We had Pamela Voorhees substitute because Jason won it before. So
his mother.
Natural.
Natural substitute.
The natural substitute. Technically, she came first, but head down the links below. You can find everything: our YouTube, our Twitch, our audio feeds. Just go, please subscribe, like, review, whatever you choose to listen to or watch to. Reviews are on YouTube, news are on Twitch. Check out the podcast network. 8 shows in a week. Like I said, we got Eternals coming on. We got tons of stuff. Extra Life is happening November 6th. I think we have 5 events: sports title, Harry Potter trivia, the trivia battle with me versus Clay's team, Taylor and Kirklin playing best of 5 Vanguard, me kicking Kirklin's ass for the sports title, tons of fun stuff. And then if we hit 20, I don't know if Dylan's even heard this, if we hit $2,500, we shave Taylor's head, which we've done before. If we hit $3,000, we're going to be shaving Jessica's head.
Nice.
So yeah, so it's a big stretch goal. It's a big leap. So please help us. Every dollar goes towards BC Children's Hospital. It's tax deductible. The links will be down below. But we'd really appreciate it. And if you have no money to donate, completely fine. Just come retweet, watch. We have lots of fun, especially in those wee hours. So like Carl, you UK people, we're expecting you to help us out. It's it can be a little daunting at times. So we got that going on. Check out Manscaped. Go, right now we're about to review Dune. I'm sure some people got some messy situations, like the Vern people, like the Vermin, like they got some huge sandworm hairstyle going on. So go use our code to get 20% off on Manscaped, GVPOD, GVPOD, and get free shipping. Look at that. So, and then this next newscast, you get to hear about Kirklin's shaving experiences. So,
oh yes, very excited to tell the tale.
Yeah, that's why he has no hat.
No,
yeah,
got chopped up.
Exactly. Oh, that was old shaver. So, and then on Patreon, the best way to listen, get the episodes ad-free, exclusive episodes early, a bunch of perks, join after 9, which will be this Saturday, 8 a.m. We had to push it. because scheduling is always fun. But I think that is everything. I'm gonna throw it to Dale Musk because I could be wrong, but I feel like was the last film you review with us on Tenet. I feel. Do you think that's the last one? Or have you done
No,
one?
it was Saw.
Right,
forget
you
about
did come back
Saw.
for Chick. You came back for Spiral. How could we forget about Spiral? Yeah, top 10 movie of the year.
Yeah, I mean, then I did all the Harry Potter retros, but that's a bit
True.
different. But I mean, Tenet is the last time I've been to a theater before a couple days ago. So yeah.
You start off, sir. What do you think about? I almost said Tenet. What do you think about Dune?
Yeah, so I feel like I went into this movie pretty blind. Like for the most part, I was interested in this movie because of the director alone. And I can't even remember like what what trailer I have seen. It like would have been probably 2 years ago or something, or whenever that first teaser was. That was probably the only thing I've seen. I can't even remember what was in that. So I really wasn't sure what to expect, really at all. And like I said, I haven't been to a theater in over like a year and 2 months or so. So I've been very much out of the game, and I haven't really seen that many new movies this year. Like maybe, I don't know, maybe 5 or so. Like I haven't really watched that many movies this year, other than blasting through all the Harry Potters. So yeah, I went in little expectation, and wow, I love this movie. This is my favorite movie I've seen in like I can't even think of the last time I've been as into a movie as I was at the theater watching this one. I think the whole experience of it was super immersive. Like the theater I was at, the audio, like there's a couple of moments I'll shout out later on in the spoiler section, but man, being in the theater for this movie in particular was just the best experience. It's such a cinematic experience, and like the sound is so intense that it just added to so many scenes. I think overall, like really what I liked about this movie is that it's just pure atmosphere, which is what this director does, plus the soundtrack, the score, and then it's just world building, tons and tons of world building, and I loved it. I found this just such an interesting world. This is like, I can't think of the last time I got out of a movie theater. I'm like, man, I just want to Google everything about this world. I want to learn about everything there is to know. And maybe I'll go read the books or something. I think I'll wait and see if if a part 2 is coming at some point. Before I do that. But if there is no second movie, then I'll probably go back and read the books or something, because I am so interested in this world. I love this movie from start to finish. I don't think I have a single negative thing to say about it. I love this movie so very much.
Wow, there you go.
I like it.
Taylor Field, I'm interested to hear what you thought, because you always use one word about a movie when you're maybe not the biggest fan of it or something like that. I always ask, and I said, "Oh, what do you think about Dune?" And he went, his first, he said some good things, I think, but then he went, it was long, and I feel like I've heard Hereditary described as long and Midsommar, especially Hereditary, because Hereditary is not that long, but you described it as, even though I agree,
like Ad Astra, that's a long movie.
That's the longest movie of all time.
It's a hop, skip, and a jump, but as I thought you were about to say it was a 4.5 out of 10. I was like, Jesus, man, that's that's some tough scoring there. But
the 5-point system, I respect that.
Yeah. Taylor Field, what do you think about Dune?
I don't remember even calling it long, but it is a long movie. I mean, can't deny that. But it was great. Like, I remember we got flack for not knowing what Dune was by someone ages ago. We got
a
hot
1-star
You
water.
know all the books. What is this?
Yeah, we were in big trouble. And you know what? I don't know what this world was. I don't know what it is. I hear tell things about Dune previous times, but we got the film, and again, experiencing what was displayed on screen was just visually mesmerizing. It was just so these aren't even these are spoiler free, but Kirklin, you were asking me some phrases, and
what
was I have no memory of this.
you were like you wanted to hear it. So I got scared of this movie from the trailers. I thought I would go in and be totally lost, but I went in and was able to pick up what was happening. That's a good thing.
Oh,
this movie made me feel like I was watching Space of Thrones, and it was wonderful. The detail and Space of Thrones, the detail in the spaceships were truly mystifying. This movie put me into a trance, and I feel mesmerized by its majesty.
Did you write that down?
feel like you're reading like the.
Did you
I
write
am.
it
I
down?
wrote these down.
On, like,
They're in my notes.
These are your
Okay.
words.
These are my words.
Okay.
Yeah.
A blockbuster
You sound like when they
experience.
you sound like when they come to present the movie at the Oscars, like
Oh,
Dune,
yeah.
a mesmerizing thrill ride of a tale.
Face
directed by
of
Denis
Thrones.
Villeneuve. Yes.
The other two, I feel like they're spoilers, so I'll say that for after. But it's beautiful. There you go. Thank you. I was just trying to do a quick scroll.
It was right in my face.
In
For the
short,
listeners, it's a screenshot of gosh, Dune was certainly long from Taylor Field.
the movie, I think everyone needs to watch it. The score delivers, and like I said, it's not something I feel like you need to know the history for. Piggybacking on what you said, Dylan, afterwards I went and took to Google. I was looking up the history. I want to learn like the origin. Like I want to get involved with this world. You know, my keys were just getting so hot with how fast my fingers were
Yeah.
typing.
Yeah.
You're like Bruce Almighty in that scene.
For some reason, I thought you were talking about your car keys. I had a complete blonde moment. Like, what are you doing with your car keys? Yeah, I don't know what Kirklin's gonna say, but I feel like this is gonna be one of those reviews of people tune in to be like, hear us debate or like, oh man, what are the takes they have against each other? Pretty much what Dylan and Taylor just said. I was careful because I didn't want to get spoiled, but I did right away. I'm like, okay, how many books are there? And I don't have time. I do not have time to read, but like maybe an audio book or something. It did do that where, and Dylan pointed out, some of my favorite movies are the world building aspect. And for me, this is like a good combination of, I definitely get the Game of Thrones vibe, but for me, it's like a combo of like Star Wars, Lord of the Rings, and Mad Max all put together, and it just works. Like Mad Max, you got like the scope of like Denis, like we saw in Blade Runner what he can do, and he does it again here. Lord of the Rings, where it just is like a world you want to live in, you know, it's just like whatever you could just sit in the Shire for, well, maybe not in the Hobbit world, but in the Lord of the Rings franchise, you could sit in that Shire for hours, and it has like the epicness and the very dramatic stuff of Star Wars. So it all hits, and I don't know, I've seen the original Dune once on TBS, like I don't know, 15 years ago. All I know is Kyle MacLachlan's in it, Sting's in it, and there's sand people and sandworms, and that's about it. You know, and everyone always says is like it's not a good adaptation of the book, so I never really went back to watch it. So this was just, yeah, Taylor said the word mesmerizing. I was just in awe the whole time. I was just locked in. As far as being seen on the big screen, man, this is just one of those that makes you appreciate and love it. It's just like the sound, and we had this with Blade Runner. I think we showed this out a lot. Like the sound design in that movie is just out of this world. It does it here again. Hans Zimmer, between No Time to Die, the James Bond movie, and this, what a year he's having. This guy is in his 60s. You think he would produce his best work? No, man, he is on fire. And that's a funny thing. Like No Time to Die and they sound like Hans Zimmer, but they sound so different. I listened to the day at the gym, like they sound so completely different. He's fantastic. We already knew the cast would be stellar, but yeah, the world building is just, it's just top tier. And it's definitely, for me, it's the best movie of the year. My favorite, it's tough because I loved Bond, but like for the best movie I've seen this year, this is like a knockout. This to me is I hope we get more. And it just feels like a start of a franchise that I just want to see a bunch of. And yeah, it was just, I don't want to use the word perfect, but it just was such a damn good time. And Denis, we've said this many times, but I just don't think there's like, and I love Nolan, but right now Denis is like the king right now between Blade Runner, Prisoner, Sicario, this Arrival. Like this guy is just putting out so much good stuff. It's just like, when's he gonna strike out? And it'll happen. Everybody has their strikeout, but man, he is it's just created such an amazing world. So I love it, and I can't recommend it enough. I think like anyone I wouldn't recommend it to, like if you don't like anything above space or sci-fi and stuff, it is slower at times, but for me, I like that because it's good. There's lots of exposition, but it doesn't feel like exposition. It's very well done how they tell, and very unique and fun ways how they do it. So absolutely love this movie. This to me was a home run. Kirklin Patzer.
Yeah, I feel like I'll be repeating a lot of what you guys said. I thought it was like all in all, it was just such a great introduction to like this world, and I thought it made it easily digestible for like someone like me who has no idea anything about Dune. I haven't read the books. I haven't seen any of the old ones. I haven't like Googled into the worlds at all like beforehand. I basically got that first teaser trailer and I didn't watch any other trailers leading into it. I'm like, okay, the scale of this looks insane. I know this is in my wheelhouse. It's like sci-fi. The cast was just phenomenal. I'm like, okay, this is a day one watch for me, like no matter what. I don't need to look into it at all. And as Taylor and I were like talking about a while back, like I was really hoping that it was going to be easy to jump into if I haven't like researched like the old ones, or just get like a very surface level knowledge on the world and the different characters and houses and just what all this is. And I thought it was so well done of like Denis and all the movie makers or people that were involved in making this movie to just make it easy for general audience members. And I haven't talked to anyone that's like hardcore into the Dune universe already, like if they read the books or anything like that. So I don't know how well it compares to that type of things, but me just speaking on general audience basically member, I thought it was phenomenal. It looked so good. The acting was so well done. It was one of those movies I just didn't want to end. And yeah, I have some issues with certain things, but I think that's just like a me issue with like some of the world. But I don't know. Maybe you guys can sway me over when we talk about it. Spoiler section, but yeah, all in all, I highly recommend seeing this like on the big screen too. I wish we had IMAX. If we had IMAX, I think this would be just like a mind-blowing experience. But just where I saw it, it was such a just fun movie going experience. And we were talking about it like off cast. Like this was the most packed I'd ever seen the theaters like since COVID.
Mine
so
too,
it was pretty
yeah.
cool. Still
the
like
money
COVID
doesn't
space
show
and
that.
everything.
The money, the
No,
opening
yeah.
weekend doesn't show that. It's just in Kelowna. It was a huge hit, you know. So
Yeah, which makes me nervous.
yes, it
just
does.
for what this set up. I just want more, and me just knowing that there's not already like a set part 2 filmed or anything like that. Yeah, it makes me nervous that way because I just need to know more because I thought it was just such a good first movie.
Well, I feel like, and Ted, maybe this is your next Facebook poll, you know, who's the Mahdi of a GeekVerse? You know, we'll put that up there. See who the chosen one is. Like, I feel it's tough because, like, me, like, Kirklin's still never seen it, but Taylor, I think you quite enjoyed it. But me and Dylan, like, we love Blade Runner. I think, Dylan, that was your favorite movie that year when it came out, and that was mine right behind Logan. And it's tough because that movie did, like, so poorly. I think the only reason they didn't have him filming it back to back because they're like, well, let's put out one and see how it does because the last big budget we gave him didn't do well. And it sucks that it comes out right now where it's still like you know, theaters aren't fully open and things like that. And you got HBO Max. Not the only hope, but the hope we have is that it continues to have good word of mouth. It opens for and does really well. And the real hope is that like on HBO Max, it just does like killer numbers. And that's the hope of like, well, okay, maybe in the future when we just put theatrically, it'll make lots of money because they have already announced that they're doing a show that's happening that based on like the witches and stuff like that. So there hasn't been many updates about that, but I think he's producing and maybe directing a pilot. So I hope it all works out because I think this does have that capability, just even from the word of mouth and talk, feel like has that chance to be like the next Star Wars, the next Harry Potter. It's just I hope they don't get cold feet because it is an expensive movie. It's almost like it's like Blade Runner. It's almost like 200 million. I think this is like 185 or something. And it's like, oof, like that's like getting into that like MCU big DC Star Wars movies, you know, for a movie that only made like $40 million this weekend. So it's tough, but I want more. Anything else on spoilers?
My girl Rebecca Ferguson fucking killed it. So
yeah, 100%.
Like there's so many big names in this movie, but like God, I thought she was such a standout. Yeah. I honestly, because I had only seen that first teaser, I kind of forgot that she was in it, and there were some other characters I kind of forgot they were in this movie. But she was phenomenal.
Yeah, I'm glad you said that. For me, she's definitely the MVP of the whole movie. Like, there's good performances all around, but she just like knocks it out of the park. And Chalamet's great too because it's just it's tough to play the role. I'll have more saying spoilers, but it's tough to play this type of role where you're the main character who's kind of like a vessel of the world. He does have his character stuff, but yeah, anything non-spoiler shout right now?
I wanted to ask, since I've been just completely out of it, what was like? Did we know that this was going to be a part 1? Like, what did we know in terms of like what to expect for this? Not really being like, not really spoilers, but like this isn't really the conclusion of a story. It's more of like the Fellowship of the Ring starting it off.
100%.
So what was that known before? How much of that was known beforehand?
It was known. He said that this just adapts the first part of the book, but Warner Brothers was never like, yes, and we're making part 2. I think it is all dependent on the success of it. Like even at the beginning, this like a minor spoiler, but you people wouldn't care. Like when it has the title of Dune right below it, then it fades and says part 1.
Yeah.
So they did the reverse of it. You know when
I was thinking
at the
about
end.
that.
Yeah, but this was like stick around. But yeah, it's known that he and the cast and crew, like everyone wants to make a part 2. But it's not been greenlit as of this recording. My hope is we wake up Monday morning like it's massive on HBO Max, and here we go. But it was the idea of he did always say we're only adapting the first half of the book.
Yeah, so that's interesting. I am glad that they put it at the start because like I said, I wasn't really following that, and it really set the expectation. I didn't know if we were gonna see like at some point in this movie it would say part 2 and then it would go into like some
Yeah.
other section of the story.
Mhm.
But for me, since it just said part 1 and never like commented on that again, it really set the expectations. And then I felt like, okay, this movie, like I knew it was maybe around just over 2 hours. Like I feel like we're getting to that point, and there's no way this is getting wrapped up in that amount of time.
Mhm.
And because they just that one simple line, part 1 at the start, didn't make it feel like I was disappointed. It just worked as an ending for me. So I'm glad. I like the way they did that. Rather than if they did the it thing, I probably would have been a bit bummed, where they just like
Yeah.
surprise sneaking in at the end.
Which is funny because it ends in a way where it could be like, this is it. Like you could watch chapter 1 and never have
Yeah.
to watch part 2. You know, it's kind of funny. But you know, we'll get into spoilers because I want to talk about it because I feel like that's been some people's like anyone that's a detractor, they push against this movie has been like the ending as maybe some of the abruptness, but I know we'll get there. So yeah, let's take first ad break and then we'll talk spoilers. So if you're not seen Dune, tune out, come back. It's on HBO Max, it's in theaters, got lots of options. Go see it so we can get a part 2, and we'll be right back. And we are back. S Bubs loves his numbers and letters titles for sequels. Dune 2 is
Fantastic
2 is
Four.
you. I don't know if that works. I don't know if that works, S Bubs.
Yeah, it
but
looks
you
like
know
a typo. Yeah. Even though the U and 2 are nowhere near each other on the keyboard.
Well, and that's what I was gonna say too, because obviously that was not a spoiler. But if you're in the chat or if you're after the fact listening to this on Twitter or Facebook, I don't want any spoilers from the books. I don't care if people go, oh, they've been out for a while. I'm not looking into them, so I don't want to know anything about the book. So before the chat gets hasty, don't drop anything of oh this and that. You know, I don't want that.
Yeah,
so.
it got dangerous a few minutes into the wiki page. I definitely got some tidbits that I maybe didn't want, but you know, I knew what I was doing.
It's a slippery slope.
Yeah. So yeah, how do you guys feel about like it's a weird place to start by one because like Taylor was
Part 1 thing.
Dylan, Kirklin, all you guys. Dylan was talking about the part 1 thing because you got that,
Yeah.
and like I said, like they hadn't said that technically before. And at first, because I had worried when it showed for credit, some people said like it just feels too much like one of those ending where it's like it's not complete. And my hope, like, it would be if I'm in a world where we don't get part 2, there is a part of me that would be like, okay, yeah, now watching this film, you always feel like you want more, but it still ends like enough way that I am satisfied in it. It's strange. Like I definitely want more. Well, I guess I'm satisfied, like Dylan said, if it's Fellowship of the Ring that I get more. You'd have to sit me down in a year when they say, hey, we're not making Dune 2 and ask me how I feel and watch it again. Because right now I'm watching it just hoping, okay, this is the end of part 1, we'll get 2. But if they say, yeah, we're not doing that, especially because Warner Brothers just got bought out, we don't know what Discovery is going to do. They could be like, yeah, we love Dune, we want to do more. They'd be like, look at what this made. We're not making more of this. So I think there's a way I can twist it as far as like, oh, like he went off and, you know, lived with these people. He lived in the desert. But at the same time, it's like there's all these loose ends of the bad guys and like all it. So it is a tough pill to swallow.
Especially with like his visions or whatever. We'll talk about those later.
Yeah.
You know, it kind of like alludes to maybe what will happen potentially. But to me, it didn't feel like a cliffhanger. It didn't feel like we're right on the edge and we're just kind of all this ending was taken away from us. It feels just like the peak of a hill, the peak of a sand dune, if you will. Like it would just hit this nice point. I feel like we kind of closed off one big storyline or one big section of the story, and now I'm ready to go back down and then, you know, start off the next set of the story. But to me, it worked for an ending at this point.
But like, if we never get that next part, I personally feel like it'll take away from just this movie. Honestly, for me at least.
But we can't say that right now.
I know that's what I mean, but
it's tough.
Like what Travis said, like sit me down in a year, and if I know I'm getting a part 2, okay, then I'm excited. But if I know I'm not getting a part 2, then I feel like I'll have a bitter taste in my mouth over this one. Well, it might be harsh, but honestly, that's the way I was feeling, at least leaving the theater.
But it's almost the same way we did this, like with Force Awakens, I feel, and we knew we were getting a sequel, but still was like there's certain questions we had, and it's like, well, it all depends on the sequels and how this goes, and clearly those didn't go the greatest. So now we look back and some things go, oh, that doesn't make sense. So I don't have that with this movie where the things don't make sense. But Kirkland, if you want a way to headcanon for yourself, you can just say, you know, Paul had that vision of him getting stabbed, and that was his end. You're like, he already knows his end. So that if we don't get that sequel, you can just say that's what happened. He went there knowing he was gonna die. He just wanted to have a good life in the desert for a little bit, and he gets stabbed, you know.
And me being selfish would be like, no, that's not good enough because I want to see Dave Bautista fuck some more people up and actually interact with like our main characters. Like just the fact that I didn't get to see like the big bad versus like our good characters. I don't know. I feel like if I never get to see that, I just got teased a little bit. And it's like it's not bad if I get more parts because it's just perfect of like showing where they are in this movie. We'll just call it like basically the fellowship of the Dune series right now.
100%. They got split up at the end.
Yeah. Yeah. So I don't know. That's just the way I feel, because also I feel like this has the potential to be one of those great like trilogy type movie experiences of like this era. Like I'm thinking Pirates of the Caribbean, something like that. Even Lord of the Rings to an extent.
Whoa,
like
Pirates! He's putting Pirates on the Lord of the Rings
Dude,
level.
the first
now,
three Pirates, come on, those are phenomenal, and like especially the way that at World's End or Dead Man's Chest ends with like Jack going up to the Kraken. Spoiler alert, but
oh, wow.
like the way that ends when the end of this movie happened, I know it's not quite as intense. I was still like, oh my god, I feel like I just need to get this another movie. And fortunately for the Pirates movies, I knew that it was coming out in like a year or so, right?
That's just I'm with you, but that's bull because many people are like, oh, 2 and 3 they step off. I'm like, no, man, those movies.
No, those are
they go
top
hard
tier.
and stuff like
I'll defend those with you.
And yeah, because I don't have my notes. I'll say that right now before I forget. Yeah, Batista, it's so funny when they set him up, like, man, I can't wait to see him. I thought for sure, and I've never read the book, so it probably doesn't happen. Like I said, I'm not going to until this after, but I'm like, man, we're going to get a Jason Momoa Batista fight scene. It's going to be fucking badass. And it's so cool too, because like Momoa was the first person that auditioned for Drax and turned it down. So it's like, man, this is really cool. And no, like Batista just filmed his stuff on a lot, like one separate day away from the other cast. Like it definitely felt like Dave Bautista was too busy to do too much for this movie, but they're like, let's set you up for more down the line. And that was disappointing because we actually, for me, other than that one scene when I'm chopping people down, I never got like a huge big badass scene. If I have like minor critiques, that's one from him. I know we'll talk about him, but like I just want to say it forget. But Phil, what do you feel about the ending there? Like we've said, it's kind of the Fellowship of the Ring, sort of. They're off to, literally they're walking. It's just like Sam and Frodo. They're walking somewhere. Where are they gonna go? I don't know.
Yeah, for me, again, going in with these actors, Dave Bautista went right over my head. Like he's in this movie. I was like, holy shit. And then as it was piling up again, like character after character after character, I'm thinking, oh my God, like this cast list is stacked. As far as that leading into part 2, I feel like I need to rewatch this just to kind of see like
fell asleep at the end. Don't remember.
No. There was so much that happened, and I just need to catch up with like, okay, where are these characters at right now in each of their storylines? Because I didn't even, in retrospect, when you guys talked about Dave Bautista, I totally forgot about what actually unfolded with him. And I was thinking, holy shit, we were right. We didn't actually get any kind of resolution with him. Not that we needed in this part 1, but we didn't get anything of him kind of going up and fighting and doing anything kind of grand. And that we started off with him near the beginning, and that really got me excited for that. So that's more or less my example on that front. But I'm definitely excited to see, like, I want that part 2. And I feel like there's,
same question. You don't get a part 2. They sit you down and say, sorry, Taylor, we're not doing it. How do you think this movie stands on itself?
I kind of side with Kirklin, where I feel like, again, it's a great movie, but I feel like it could definitely be hurt a little bit because.
Sorry, keep going. I'll go next. It's me ahead of me. Should have muted myself.
That was pretty rude. Let's get him out of here.
I just feel like if you go in making a movie, and you're setting it up to have like second parts, like you could watch the first Harry Potter. This is my example. They made that literally like its own standalone. You could watch it and you wouldn't need the other films. It just holds its ground as its own film. That's great.
He beats Voldemort again. Happy ending.
Exactly. And then happy ending. So I feel like you go this route. They've set it up, and as we were getting to the end of this film, I'm thinking, holy shit, like we're 2 hours, 20 minutes in. There's a lot that I feel like we haven't covered, and there's like an opening here. Are they going to set us up for a sequel? I didn't know we were getting a sequel.
Well, so it's a bull play because like when you use that example of Harry Potter, they did the first one, then also was a big hit, and I think they had the idea they're doing more, but it feels very similar to Justice League, like the Snyder Cut one, when Zach's like, I'm gonna shoot like 10 minutes of new footage and the ending of the movie's just gonna set up the next Justice League, and Warner Brothers is like, yeah, we're not doing that. We're not gonna do another Justice League with you, dude. So it's like it is a ballsy choice too, because I will agree with you, there is like, I can headcanon enough that just like like I said, he's one with the desert now, and that's his life and everything like that. But I will agree that there's some missed potential there. Esbub said that Javier Bardem was his surprise actor that he forgot. I forgot that Stellan Skarsgård, who played the Baron, I forgot he was in here. And I know he's caked in makeup, but I was like, oh right, this dude's in it. Emily forgot Momoa was in it because she's like, who the fuck else is in this movie? I was like, yeah, I know, it just keeps coming and whatnot. So
I knew Timothy Chalamet and Zendaya were in it, and that was it.
And I was surprised how little Zendaya was actually like. Oh, she's in a lot, like in like spirit, but like her actual screen time, that's like 5 minutes, like 5 minutes clean or something like that.
Just getting back to what Taylor was saying, like a thought that I had was when it started, said Dune Part 1. I like that comment got me. Like Dune Part 1, I was kind of like Dylan, where I was kind of waiting for that Part 2 to happen, like during the movie. And in the beginning, I forget the homeworld of Paul's. Yeah, that one. Thank you. So
Good
like
job,
when they're going over stuff like that,
I'm the lore guy on this episode. I got you covered.
Perfect. I'm gonna be going off of you quite a bit here, but like I felt like a lot of that was rushed for, I don't know, just like certain details of the like their people and the significance of it, and I just felt like we went to like the Dune world like pretty quick. So then during those moments, I'm like, oh, okay, it's because we're going to wrap up this entire story in this one movie. We're going to get Part 2, maybe around like the 45-minute mark or something like that. But then once that didn't happen, and then it was starting to get later in the movie, and I'm like, oh, I'm getting Part 2, like maybe if I get another movie. And then I was kind of just like, oh, I felt like we glossed over a lot of certain details that we probably didn't have to if we're trying to make an entire movie series out of this. Now, I guess you could push back and say, well, Denis doesn't know if he's getting another movie, so he is trying to cover quite a bit in this one. And maybe that's where you're leaning into like the memory, whether it's like in the future or in the past, just those like glimpses that he's getting, because then it's kind of showing you of future events that could happen. So then if we never get a Part 2 or further movies down the line, it's like, well, I kind of know what happens.
But it is funny because like the last thing the movie does is establish, oh, these visions might not be true.
Exactly.
The whole movie is hitting you over the head with, oh, his visions, everything's happening. Duncan's dying, he's seeing Zendaya, all this stuff. But then he has these visions of this dude that's going to clearly help him out the rest of his life, right? No, smash cut to him murdering him in a desert, being like, sorry. So it's like, that, like for me, I love that vision thing because it's like I did like the way they played with it as far as like he envisioned Momoa being dead, Duncan, and then it's like, oh, when he saw him like twice in a row, it's like, oh, he's not actually gonna die. Like these might be wrong. And then no, he like actually a third time because when they stabbed him right through the gut, I'm like, oh, he's dead. And then when he just gets up, he's like, oh, and I'm like, oh no, he's still alive. And then he does die. Like, okay, it's kind of that no matter what, like you could delay the vision, but it's gonna happen at some point. So then when this guy who seemingly had a lot of info to tell Chalamet just gets destroyed in a fight that I loved like the first 2 minutes was like kind of like even, and then Chalamet just like fucked him up like so many times, like I could kill you here, I could kill you here, like. And I love Javier when he's just like, oh, what is he like is he taunting or whatnot? He's like, no, he's never killed the man. I was like, oh man, like so well done, because some people have said, oh, that was way too long. I even saw in our chat it was too boring. I loved everything about that ending. I love that subvert the expectations of the visions. I loved the fight scene because I was in my head, I was like, I kind of hope if he's like the one, he should just kind of mess this dude up, and he did, and like I loved everything about the ending of, okay, it sets up for Part 2, but I mean just that stuff that happens in the little kind of dugout there, man, really good stuff there.
Yeah, I totally thought Paul was gonna die in that scene because of the vision where he like gets stabbed, and then like that voice is like, "Don't fear, this is just the beginning" or something. I'm like, okay, he's gonna die, get resurrected or some shit, and then no, the visions were totally throwing me off. So then all those ones that were foreshadowing future events, I don't trust none of that shit.
No, who got less screen time? Ana de Armas, No Time to Die, or Zendaya and Dune?
Zendaya.
Definitely Zendaya. Yeah,
definitely.
I did think about the other day when I was thinking about No Time to Die. I'm like, man, I'm glad Dylan hasn't seen this yet, because she's in it for like a 10-minute shot and whatnot. But she's great.
That's good to know beforehand.
Yeah, you'll watch the YouTube clip in a little bit. Yeah. And that's what I like about his visions, because to me it shows like kind of two paths of like, oh look, there's this one path where Zendaya like betrays you and kill you, and then it seems like there's this other path where you guys could end up happy and like together like a ruler of this world. And that's why I like where the whole movie is now. I think for a sequel too, it would put him in a very interesting spot of he can't even trust his visions before. I think now, before he's like, oh yeah, this is what's gonna happen, but now it's like, well, anything can change, because before he met that guy, he was just having visions of him being trained, but then he had the vision of him dying, all this. So it's like they're just like, I think he'll learn that they can't dictate his life,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Hopefully, if we
I
got a fucking sequel.
yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong. Like, I definitely want a sequel more than anything because I love this movie so much. But yeah, I think for me, it's like there's so much going on here. Like, there's the Game of Thrones thing that Taylor's talking about with like, okay, here's your different, your different like home bases, your different worlds of power. Like you got the emperors, you got the Gedi Prime, and all this. And then for me, like the story. If you really break down like plot point for plot point, like what the main story is, it's really not that much going on here. But this
No.
you just spend so much time developing Arrakis as this place and explaining like so much about the world and its people and the way it functions and the reason why it's become this really important place to the Empire, to Gedi Prime, all these different things. And I don't know. To me, that's like more interesting than any story they could have told in this amount of time. And I think that's why I'm so into it. And I think that's for me why I feel like I'll be able to come back to this movie. If there's never a sequel and this is all we get, I'd be bummed. But I think there's still so much here to dive into and so much intrigue that I still think I'll come back and love this movie for years, even if it's the only one that happens. And I mean, I'm curious what this series is, because the way you're talking about it, Travis, makes it sound like it's happening or like it's signed off on, like they're
They
going
had
ahead.
announced it a while back ago. Yeah, it was like I think kind of course, what they always do, like kind of like a prequel origin of like what is the Nefidi, right? That's what they're called. I hope I'm
Fremen.
saying it right.
The
What?
Fremen.
The
Fremen.
Fremen? No,
Those are the
no,
people
Oh,
on
living on
Arrakis.
Arrakis? Who are you
no.
talking
I'm talking
about?
about the witches. Talking about like the
Oh,
those are the Nefidi, aren't they? Like they
I don't
got like the
fucking know.
drapes across their face. Either way, Jessica's like
ladies.
clan of
The
people.
Bene Gesserit is what they're called.
The Benny. I'll call them the Benny. Yeah, they're the ones getting the series, not the Vermin. I think I'll look
Okay.
into what you guys
But
are
it's
talking about. Yeah.
it's tied to
Vermin.
this
The Fremen.
cinematic universe, so to
Not
speak.
vermin.
Like it's tied to
Yes.
this movie.
Yes.
So there you go. You are getting more. I mean, maybe it doesn't answer Paul's story, but at least there's more coming in the world. And for me, I mean, I found the Bene Gesserit, like for what we got in this movie, I'm like, damn, I want to know so much more about them.
Yeah.
It's really interesting. So
Yeah, the
I'm
Ben and Gesserit
down
was
for
cool.
that.
They were awesome. Like I loved all the sci-fi stuff, but then it was like, oh, we're mixing kind of medieval witchcraft, like magic, like fantasy. I was like, damn, this is awesome. Like this is really cool. I loved everything about them, their vibe. I loved like the torture, whatever scene room. I loved all like everything her and Jessica were talking about. I just want to know everything. Like when they're like, you were supposed to have a female, but you just thought you were like, so it sounds like in a way that she almost like could choose to have a male, like the way
I
they
think they
phrase
can,
it. Cause yeah, just to like produce the chosen one, like because she had all the signs and stuff. I love at the point when she's talking to Paul when she's like, oh, we've been mixing bloodlines for years. And it's like, so when this started, did she actually love Oscar Isaac, or was it just like a mission to go get impregnated by him? And then she fell in love. Like there's so much stuff, like, man, that just in a few sentences, the world they create with the Bennies, I absolutely love it. And I like that it's like a fun, like I said, I like the witchcraft thing. If people think it's too Star Wars-y, Star Wars took from this, if you read in the history and everything like that. And it all worked for me. And I loved their look, everything about them, just the aura, the vibe. Yeah, give me that if that's a series. And yeah, this article was in 2021 July. This past summer, they just got a showrunner. So yeah, they ordered it straight to series at HBO Max, and it's told through I won't read the whole thing, but yeah, that's what the series is about.
Because I really, really like them. They just seemed very like Sith Lord or something like that, like dark secret society of these like just ladies that are so powerful, but like also just kind of in the shadows. Like they're not like the front run. Like I don't know, if you think of the Empire, I feel like yeah, exactly. So I really love that, and it is exciting to get that news. But I think what this movie did so well was just like for like a general audience member like myself, just like break down so many of these different like just variables in this world and so many things. It just showed it to me, and then it just left with, okay, see you next time. And I think part of the reason why I feel robbed was because I'm like, oh, I just need to know more. And again, maybe that's just me having to dive into the book to get all that information, but I think the way that it was delivered from like Denis Villeneuve and like the phenomenal casting, like all the actors that just like did such a good job in their roles, I want more of these same people that I've seen on there. So
Mhm.
if I never get that, I think I will be pretty disappointed. But I got to stop being so pessimistic because I don't even know if I'm not going to get that right now. So I should just be talking about this movie.
Well,
And
yeah, still enjoy what you got here.
yeah,
I'm the same
exactly.
thing as Dylan. Like, yeah, I would always be like, man, I wish we got more. But unfortunately, I do have already a lot of those movies where it's like, oh, I wish I got more, but I still love this one, you know? And
Yeah.
yeah, if the series does happen, that's great. But like, I think that's a good thing with this film. It's such a, it, even though at the ending you go back and forth on, the rest of it's just such a nice sandwich. You just want to eat over and over again. You know, there's so many
Oh,
nice
absolutely.
toppings and stuff
Yeah.
in the middle of it, you know? So.
Yeah. No, it was phenomenal. Taylor, what do you think about the Bene Gesserit? Did I say that right? I thought I said that right.
That's why I'm just going with Benny. I don't even want. No, I think it's the Benny Gesserit. I thought something like that's. I don't
There's
know.
a T in there.
Could be silent.
Just
like you said, like I didn't know that Star Wars actually got their vibes from this, but
oh, were you gonna come in here and be like, "This is just fucking Star Wars"?
this is
the
a
ripoff?
Star Wars
chosen one.
ripoff.
Yeah.
Fuck, George
I've seen
Lucas
this in
should
Bad
sue, or Disney should sue. Yeah.
George Lucas.
But no, I just going in like you said, Kirkland, like Empire vibes, Sith vibes, like not necessarily, I should say, like Sith vibes, because I didn't get the gist that they were necessarily like super bad, but they had their own agenda. Like when they were talking about, like, yeah, we were supposed to have like the bloodlines kind of all like organized and plan out. Me and Travis talking about the GeekVerse bloodlines, the corn maze the other night. But no, it just felt super
That's a longer
mysterious.
conversation than just a little drop. We'll explain it after 9. But.
I love the whole setup of him going into the room. And I mean, I thought, okay, they're not going to kill him off. Like, obviously, they need him. We're only like 20 minutes into the movie, but I love the intensity, and I loved how it was him just to control the voice. And I wanted to know more about that because I didn't know anything going into this. And you have this organization, this cult or group, the witches that have this.
I think a cult is a good description. It seems very
the
culty.
cult.
Yeah.
The cult had this power of the voice, and I was just blown away by what this was, and I wanted to learn more about it because again, that's another thing I didn't expect in this movie. So when you have him walking in like, you dare make my mother leave or whatever he said, and then she like commands him to like appear in front of her, I was like, holy shit, this woman is the top tier bee's knees. You don't fuck around with her. So it was just super cool to see that element again. Like, I will kill you if you remove your hand from the box. And I didn't know what he was going to do. Again, this movie just had so many different surprises, and the witches being this faction that even the what was Dave Bautista's clan name again? What was their house?
Harkonnen.
Yeah, it was for them. They beat around the bush with it, but they didn't necessarily want to betray or get on the witches' bad side. The witches are kind of like this faction that is, you don't mess around with them.
Yeah. But Baron still fucked her over when he's like, "Oh well,
but he fucked her over good.
We need to take out the boy and the mother." And he's like, "Well, there's more things than just us that can take it out, like see if they divide or survive the desert and everything like that." So that was great because it was just because I was like, oh, "Okay, you can see this character, the Baron. Like he does have a point where he does have to agree. Like there's somebody that still puts him in check, but the second she leaves, he's like." Nah, we ain't doing that. We're taking out this whole bloodline. Like I just want them all gone, everything like that. And that's where it's great because they are so powerful. So it's like this thing of in the second one or in the future, it's like if they were to find out what are the ramifications of that, because clearly if Paul and Jessica were to get back to them or send some sort of message like, hey, we're alive and these are the people that tried to take us out, I feel like that's a situation you don't want to get yourself into, but also knowing the Baron, I feel like they try to hit them really hard, really fast. It's like that's a team like the Bennies, you got to take out right away. Like I feel like that's a night over operation. Everyone's sleeping. Okay, we got 24 hours. Send everyone we can. We're gonna lose thousands of us, but we got to take them out. So I don't know. Again, I know nothing about the books, but I wonder if that could be a thing of him being like, yeah, we gotta kind of extinct them the same way they did Paul's bloodline. Because how else do you beat them? You know, like this. I guess if they got do headphones work? I don't know. Because if headphone work, they're kind of fucked. You know.
Yeah, that guy who couldn't hear them, he was good to go.
Yeah.
I think it also, that just creepy cult organization, the backstory we did get just adds so much to Rebecca Ferguson's character as Jessica. Because, and I was thinking like the first scene in the movie where she's like having breakfast with Paul and kind of talking to him, just from that scene, I was like, okay, I feel like this character is probably not going to be in the movie very much. You know, maybe have like 10 minutes of screen time or something. I was just getting that vibe. It's going to be this mother character that doesn't really have big impact on the plot. It's just kind of there for a little bit or there in the background. But she, yeah, like you guys said, she is possibly like the most interesting character of the bunch here. And these kind of back alley conversations she's having, that scene when she's outside the door during the torture scene and she's just like trying to control herself, but she's also just so overflowing with emotion. There's even like this little hint when the what is it, the Duke of, what is it, what's it called, like the something of change, you know, when they come down to like sign the paperwork to sign over the planet Arrakis.
I can't remember.
And there's like the point where they mention the Bene Gesserit, and that lady is standing there, and then it cuts to her face, and like it's just, you know, half a second or a second of Jessica just looking at her, and like her reaction just says so much. How she's like terrified of this organization, but also she's part of it too. It's super interesting, and it's cool that we're gonna get more of that on screen. Not necessarily that we're gonna get Jessica or this other character that's in this movie, just the organization as a whole, but yeah, I think it adds so much to her backstory and makes her kind of a terrifying character. And even in some of the visions that Paul has, like the one where she's kind of has like all the words like on her face, and she's doing some sort of weird chant with a Chris knife in front of her. It's like, man, this character is terrifying. Yet this is like the motherly figure that's kind of keeping Paul safe and helping him along.
And she has the new baby too, so it's like, what is going on here, you know, and stuff like that. And no, it's great because when you mentioned that she's scared, because I legitimately feel when she puts Paul in that room, she feels there's a chance he's gonna die, like right here. Like how to explain that?
She's seen them do it before, kind of thing. Yeah.
Yes, 100%, and that's the best thing, because at first you're like, okay, she's a part of this. Why is she so scared of them? And then later on, they set up like, yeah, sounds like she's defied them a few times, and it's this thing of like, okay, if she ends up being right, if Paul is the one, then oh great, but you got to prove that, and you got to get to that point, right? And it's just so good. Of like, I love when Paul is talking about something about bloodlines and stuff like that, like, oh, I'm just so important because my father, and he's like, you're like, your namesake belongs to other like packs or something, like just saying like, yeah, sure, you might be like, cool, you're his son, but it's more important that you're one of ours, you know, like it doesn't really matter at the end of the day. And it is kind of this like, again, classic Chosen One thing where it's like, okay, well, he has the power and the legacy of his father, but then he has like the supernatural like power, and he has his back, so he has like all the tools to unite the people in a sense, which I imagine probably what happens most of these Chosen One stories. But yeah, everything, even that, I love that scene of what is Oscar Isaac's character name, his father? I know he's just the Duke, but what is he?
Duke Leto.
Mr. Atreides.
Yeah, Atreides. I'm just gonna call him Oscar Isaac. When they have that scene kind of like 5 or 10 minutes before the whole breakdown happens, when he says like, "Can I trust you with Paul's life?" And she's like, "Of course." And he's like, "No, I'm not asking you as the mom. I'm asking you like a part of this cult. Like, if I go down, we all go down. Like, is Paul like safe with you guys, or should?" Because it's this great like fork in the road where I feel like Oscar Isaac in that moment, if he didn't believe her, he may have to part ways or like go against her in a way, because he's almost feeling like, hey, if I'm dead and you can't protect Paul, like I'm gonna have Duncan fucking take you out right now. And then they agree and they talk, and he's saying he should have married her, but I think it's not because he would have hated her. I think he just felt so desperate of, like he said, we're running out of time, and if he feels the next week he might be dead, if he can't trust his wife or, you know, the Bennies take care of him, he's gonna have to do something. And obviously to get that route. But I love just all the inconsistencies of like, that's where it reminds me of Game of Thrones, of everybody having like 10 different motivations of like trying to figure it out. And Oscar Isaac, just always phenomenal, such a good looking guy, and he portrays it so well. And I don't know what it was about in this movie, but it was the whole like, man, I really hope that Metal Gear Solid movie does happen with him, because he just at times looked like Snake, and when he was talking like authoritative and stuff, it was like, I want to see him with a gun, with an army. But yeah, so good.
Yeah,
I'm sure. Were you gonna say something?
Not at all. You go, man.
No. Okay.
You got the pace.
I was just gonna say, I found it very intriguing how he was totally oblivious to his son being in this death room with this witch lady.
Because I feel like having a good dream. Probably he's just
like no one woke him up.
His son's like seconds from death.
She woke. It seemed like she woke Paul up early when everyone was asleep, and then also he does insinuate when she's like, "You got to get some sleep," and he says, "No, not like that." I think there's a good opportunity she could have drugged him for that morning, because he does turn away these other like sleeping drugs. So I think if Jessica wants you to stay asleep an extra hour past what you're supposed to, all it takes is a little chanting in your ear and it might be done. You know, like I said, they established they have like these sleeping pills that I think knock you out pretty well, because he didn't want them. He's like, no, not tonight. So I don't know. Let's take our second ad break and then we'll talk more about the sands of Dune. So we'll be right back. And we're back. Do we want to continue on that topic? We want to go somewhere new?
I just wanted to
yours,
talk more about the
gentlemen.
Oscar Isaac character, the Duke Leto. I just because I had only seen that first teaser trailer, I had no idea like what his role was really going to be. I was very like pleasantly surprised though for the character that he ended up being. Like he is this very authoritative like person. He's basically the head of their house, their bloodline, but also he's just such like a great father to Paul. And that scene that we had on, I think it was at like the graveyard on their home planet, and I can't remember if he dropped the line here or if it was somewhere else, but he was basically saying like you're gonna be like asked to like be a leader or something like that. And again, I'm paraphrasing this, so I apologize, but like you're gonna be called to answer to that, and if you can't, like then you'll already be like basically what I wanted from you, and that's just my son. And it was like a really touching moment, and it was something I was really not expecting going into this movie, because from the teaser trailers he just looked like such like an imperial officer, where it's just like war and ultimate like domination. And I'm so glad that there's more layers to his characters. Yeah, he
like
could have just been like, Paul, you're gonna do this because you're my son, and we're gonna take over Arrakis, and we're gonna murder those Fremen. But there's so many more layers to the character, and he checked that box of being an authoritative figure. Like it seemed like his people really respected him, and he like demanded just like praise, but like it was one like force, but also just like love for him. And then the relationship between him and Jessica, the relationship between him and Paul, like I just really, really, really like the character, and it made it really heartbreaking, like his fate in this. Because I'm just a huge fan of Oscar Isaac, so I want him to be a character that I can root for, and I truly was. He was so great.
Yeah, I feel like characters in that kind of role are often just very one-dimensional and very just the badass in charge, doesn't show any emotion. And I agree with what you said. I think what I add is that I like the way Josh Brolin's character plays off of him, because Josh Brolin's character doesn't trust anyone at all. He's very intense. He very much is that like cliche military badass guy. And so it works well that you have Oscar Isaac as this kind of charismatic figure who is like trusting of these people that Gurney is Josh Brolin's character's name. Gurney is like, you step back, he puts a knife to anyone's throat instantly for anything, but Oscar Isaac's like, no, it's okay. And he kind of puts his guard down, and I really liked that layer to him. So yeah, I think he was a great character. I wanted to quickly...
I was just gonna say, when Javier Bardem spits as like a sign of respect, and the whole room just like jumps at him. Like, no, it's part of his culture.
I liked that scene. I wanted to quickly shout out, just because we were kind of on this topic, but in the Dragonfly ship, when Jessica is using the voice powers to take everyone out, that is just such a badass scene. I love the way that's shot. I love how scary she is in that moment. So shouts to her as well. But any other thoughts on the Duke from maybe Taylor, perhaps?
He blew my mind. Like, Kirklin, I'm with you. I had no idea what his position was in this. I actually thought, okay, he's probably going to be a villain or something.
Yeah.
But he looks 100% like I won't say a carbon copy, but just 100% like one of the Star Wars: The Old Republic, like cinematic, like Jedi, like people, like just his armor. He looks like that, and it just is so cool to see him representing this in this light. I just feel like him being the Duke and just controlling like this planet, being a very kind, down-to-earth person who cares about his son and his people and everything, and how he's not going to
Arrakis.
What's Brackus?
Arrakis.
He's not Brackus. He's not going there to Arrakis. Arrakis. He's not going to Arrakis to annihilate the people.
Yeah, that would have been the same thing.
We need cheat cards for this one. Yeah, what is it?
Yeah.
But he's going there because like he told Timothy, he's like, yeah, we should befriend them. You know, on our planet we have sea power and we have air wind power. I want desert power. I don't know why I love that. I just love that term. I want that desert
I
power.
love that was going to be my nickname, but you stole it. So
desert power.
I'll bestow. You can have it. It's all good.
Here's the last line in the movie. Chalamet says desert power, and Zendaya just smiles like, yeah, desert
I
power.
wasn't expecting that, seeing like the big change. That's so good.
The fact that she's MJ2 brings it all around, you know.
Full circle.
Yeah, well, that's what they're gonna call Dune too. Dune, desert power, you know, or big change. Yeah, Dune, big change. But I want to mention too, yeah, because Dylan showed that scene about Jessica and the flight. Because I thought it was great that they go back and forth to showing how motherly she is. But in that scene, she's just cutthroat, and like you said, she's scary. So it is like, oh man, like 20 years ago, you wouldn't have wanted to mess with her because she would have just messed you right up. And I love that even in that moment, it's like a teaching moment for Paul. Like find the right. I love the sign language as a way to communicate everything like that. Like find the right tone, everything. And then whether he's deaf or not in real life, that guy that played like the deaf one, oh, what a like disgusting little bugger. When he just like laughs at Paul and he's like, oh, I'll show her a long goodbye. Stop talking. And he's just like, he just reminds me of someone you would have met in like Diagon Alley, you know, like that sort of deal. Like, like he just came off really like whatever. But no, Oscar is great. I loved what you point out, Taylor, where like he's not there just to destroy. Like even he says to Javier, like, hey, your people are never going to be hunted by me. And he's just there to try and get things going. Obviously, he starts to quickly realize that maybe this was like a death sentence. And it was, like Dylan says, like the plot of the movie is a colony works with another colony. They turn their back and try to kill them all. That's literally like the actual story of it. And then it's all the character and world stuff that's like the complicated stuff or like the interesting things. But the actual story is just like a backstabbing tale. You know, it's a big Shakespearean thing. So no, he was great. I liked his send off. That was a really good scene. I love that, you know, he's whispering, he gets the Baron and everything like that, breaks the tooth and sucks his kill shot. Didn't work, you know, but it was a good scene. And Oscar Isaac just laying there in all his glory, you know. Too bad I wasn't rated R. Could have saw some real Poe Dameron. But again, I'm just very happy that this man is my Moon Knight. Watching this, like, fuck, man, he's gonna kill it. And I can't. What do
you mean some real Oscar Isaac? Like if it's rated R.
Real Poe Dameron.
Real Poe Dameron. Like what do you mean by that though? Like just more exposed?
Like we could see his X-Fighter, you know, stuff like that. Which it was funny when he was at the
lost Taylor.
Yeah, when he was talking at the graveyard. Well, Taylor doesn't know what a dick helicopter is, all right? So let's calm down. Anyway,
no, Doc, helicopter,
sure,
Doc.
All right, yeah, whatever, sure. When it was that line, Kirklin at the graveyard, when he said like, "You'll be my son." The other thing that I laughed is he was talking about the Emperor, and then also in that same sentence talking about how he wanted to be a pilot. I was like, was this the wrong actor to cast in this role because he's shown all these Star Wars things? But then luckily he's like a completely different character. But yeah, I just like this look. I like the full beard. I like the mix of the gray fox going on. And yeah, he's not on that much. He has like the Boromir Ned Stark role where you fall in love with him, but he's doomed, but doomed, D-O-M, you know. But yeah, great job.
I want to one day get to a level in my life where I can just have like my house sigil on my ring. And then when I like sign things, I just like stamp it. Oh, such a badass power move.
Just get a planet.
Really like
just get a planet. I mean, you know, you gotta have like steps in the ladder there, Taylor. That's like the own a planet, own my own little Terra. That's the final rung on the ladder.
Taylor, Taylor has Terra ready to go, so we'll all work together one day when we take over our planet.
So someone signs me off to take over some fucking barren desert, and I get fucked over.
You would be, yeah. No, you're gonna be the guy watering those trees.
This desert has the most expensive resource of all time. It's a great desert. You want this desert?
like so I can kind of associate this with like
is that what happened right there?
An RTS video game. So when House Poe Dameron. Atreides, thank you. Fuck, I need those cheat cards, Dylan.
I got you.
I put it in my notes. I got them all here in front of me.
When they go and they take over the sand planet, Dune, I feel at least to me that it's like, okay, you're in an RTS game and you're trying to set up your resources, get set up real quick, and then the enemy team just fucking rushes you with like Halo Wars Warthog rushes you. Like you just get hit so hard with like, and you got to set up that safe period of like, okay, there's a 10-minute safe period where you build up your resources, no one attacks, and then right out of the get-go when that 10-minute timer is done, you get fucking bombed, and that's
and
what
they have their
happens.
buddy who's been playing the game for years with them tagging along too, and you're like, "Fuck, I didn't know about this guy."
yeah.
Because like first Batista and his boys land, and then the Emperor's people land. So like right when it's like, oh, our good guys might have a shot, right behind them, they literally rappel down. It's like, fuck, we're so screwed. Whatever you're doing with your sword dances, it's not going to work here, gentlemen. Like you're just, and then they just calculatingly go through this entire town, taking out every one of his bloodline, and it was great. But yeah,
he just got his bloodline taken out. Oh, he's back.
I just said the odds were completely stacked against them. So
yeah, it was not good. It's probably a good time to mention that the Imperial planet, which I wrote the name down because there's no how to remember this, but Salusa Secundus.
Holy fuck!
Yes,
Iconic. But the Sardaukar, the people that live there, that scene was so fucked up. First of all, the guy who's doing like the throat singing and like doing the patty wig polka thing. Yeah. And then there's just like, people like upside down just being like,
oh yeah,
let the blood, and then people are like, everyone gets a taste, or it's like the war paint, right? Yeah, that scene was absolutely savage. Really, it really like makes you scared of the Imperial army and
absolutely,
the Emperor's back pocket. He's got the power ready to go.
Like that's the one place when you're almost out of gas. You're like, well, let's not land here. Like let's go like a little, let's go a little further because I don't want to go there.
Yeah, like I think just that one scene before we even see them like kick ass and like just slaughter people, just like this is kind of where they are to like. Like their barracks, more or less, like where they gather their troops.
This is just them getting ready.
Yeah, these guys are fucked up, and they are going to be cold and hardcore murderers. And it was just such a crazy intro to like a fighting force like that. I thought they were so badass though, like just like their origin planet type thing, and then like just their white outfits with like the blood. Oh, it was just it was so badass. Cool.
It's funny because when you look at these different houses, again, like Space of Thrones, how I relate it. Atreides, I just feel like, okay, they're the Starks, and that's 100% why I like them. They're the good guys, and they're exactly they're always getting fucked. So I'm worried. Like I need them to come back. I'm hoping they come back. Like the bloodline's still there, but like who are they going to recruit? They're going to go to the military planet? I don't think so.
So you're telling me there's gonna be a scene where Paul has like the chance to like take over Arrakis, and then he just
I don't want to.
She's my queen.
She's my queen.
Want it.
I don't want it.
God, I hope not.
No, I think Paul clearly is going to use. He dropped the you know who I might be. I don't even know who I am. You know who I might be. And Jessica's always like, don't overpromise, because I still wonder he's having these visions, but is there going to be a chance his brother or whose sister or that baby is is that going to end up being the one? It could be a bait and switch. I think it is just because it's Timothée Chalamet. It feels like that's the way the story is going to go. But he's doing the Harry Potter of I am the chosen one. Right away, he's just well, I could talk the Emperor. He doesn't have sons, and she's just that
was bold.
That was a bold.
Holy shit!
I couldn't luckily I'll never be in a place in my life where someone murders my entire family, and my last play is, you know what, I want to marry his daughters and be like, yeah, this is gonna work out for you. It was bold, but I did love how Klein's, I think that was her name, just was you want to make a play for the throne, that's what you want to do right now. Okay, clearly
that's the Robb Stark scenario. Marry the guy with the bridge's daughter, and then you get your whole family killed off.
That was different. They made a deal, and then it went sour. Then he killed them. This is, I killed your whole family, marry my daughters. No,
a little preemptive.
And I'm very excited to see this Emperor character, because I don't know, he's not been cast. I thought we might see him in this movie, but I can't wait if we do get a part 2. Good thing is we haven't heard too much about him. Just as classic Emperor character, you don't want to mess with him, right? But anytime
we have casted for him, is it Ian McDiarmid?
No, we don't know. No.
Yeah,
I'm saying there's a chance.
I'm curious to see more about that character if we do get more of this. I just want to see more about the reason why he decided to turn on the Atreides people. I mean, I guess it was kind of said that you just felt like they were getting too much power, or they were gaining too much favor with the other houses. It was kind of the vibe I got. Did you guys take that a different way?
They were rivaling up to meet the Emperor's strength, is how I took it. And the other houses thing is definitely, that's a good point to mention. I hope we get to see more of that and how they'll come into play. But yeah, they just got powerful.
Yeah, that's how I took it. I took it was they're building up. The Emperor wants to come up from the knees, and I took it also the bear. What are they? The Harkins that we said. What was their name?
Harkonnens.
Harkonnens. They made like the way the Baron talked because he said like, "Oh, this is finally over. We've come to a conclusion." Made it sound like they've been feuding for generations, like these two houses and stuff like that. So like the Emperor's like, these people are getting too powerful. Oh, and these people really hate them. Perfect. Like 1-2 punch, we can take them out, and that's exactly what they did. And so let's start making some more, I guess. But
don't you feel like that's just kind of, again, I know it's when you're a bad leader, you're going to think that, okay, someone is going to rise up and dethrone you. But I just feel like at the end of the day, like he has House Atreides that is literally sworn to him. And we see at the beginning of the movie, like Oscar Isaac's is like, again, pledging whatever the Emperor commands, he'll follow. I just feel like it's kind of right now. Yeah. But even then, like we obviously got to see Oscar Isaac's character and we see how loyal he is and how he, at least to me, I didn't get the sense he would betray the Emperor. He's just doing what is right for his house, following orders and just trying to do what's good. So I feel like the Emperor, just to kind of be that afraid, like I feel like, again, I don't know the Emperor on a personal note. I don't know what he's like, but he's obviously not a good guy. I feel like he could have made some change in leadership calls, but like I don't know why he would have felt that intimidated because he owns him.
But I'm the other way around as far as like when they're like, oh, we're going to have this ceremony to see if we sign this agreement. And Paul's like, why are we doing this? It's already decided that we're going to sign it. It feels like, yeah, it's a partnership, but more in a partnership of like, you step out of line, I'm going to take you out. And I think like, obviously he did step out of line, but I think it's that thing of like, even if in the future for Atreides, the Emperor might say, you got to go do this thing that would really hurt you or your family or people. And he would have no choice. I think he wanted to get out of that situation. I took the complete opposite, that he is that they are almost in a against your will sort of situation and they got to get power. So even then, if you don't have to turn against the Emperor, it could be on a level playing field of like, no, we're not going to do this because we have our own way. Right now, it feels like the Emperor is pretty much just telling you, hey, you have to do this. It's like loyalty by abuse.
So as a test in that sense, like, do you feel the Emperor necessarily wouldn't be able to take them on with all like the Harkins and everything else and the military people go at their home planet? So do you feel like
like Atreides? I feel like he would have just wiped out Atreides.
As opposed to moving them?
Well, no, I think okay, they go to Atreides and they could win, but I think it's a could. Where I think if they split them up and they get them all separated and spread apart, it's an easy win as far as especially putting them on this planet where they don't have much artillery. So I think that like maybe the Emperor and the Harkins could have won like with the home planet, but I still think that like that is the plan to kind of ensure victory. If you're looking at it in a Palpatine sort of way, it's like, well, divide and conquer instead of like let's leave them at home where they have every device, everything, like all their defenses, they know the planet, versus this. They even say like that's the Baron's plan, right? Is, oh, I'm not going to kill them, I'm just going to let the desert do it. So it's like it's putting them in a situation that if they survive the battle, they won't survive living on the outskirts or anything like that. So I think it's kind of like putting them in a rock and hard place.
I'm very, very interested again. Like if we're getting more just to like see different types of houses and stuff like that because of how different Atreides and Harkonnen are. It'll just be cool to see different sides of that, but also like their perspective on this whole situation. Like I'm assuming Atreides had some good allies if they're reaching a point that like they could have made a shot for the throne. Like they probably would have had a lot of backing
100%
and support like that. So like if they just hear that like Harkonnens, who I'm assuming are just assholes to fucking everyone, so they probably have a lot of enemies.
It's because the way they look, they're just mad at us. They're like, look how ugly we are.
No,
like,
they seem pretty mean. They seem pretty mean people. But so like just different people like, well, this is pretty fucked up here, but like also we can't just run against the throne. Maybe there's some small rebellion that'll be going with different types of houses. And again, this is just stuff that I'm assuming is gonna happen.
I think that's how you say her name because she was sent there by the Emperor, but she said she was going to go report this to somebody before she ran those dudes at the desert. So like she to me was going to get that message out of like, hey, like Atreides didn't do anything wrong. This was a complete mutiny and they tried to extinct them. Like that would, I think, get even other people that maybe aren't with Atreides go, hey, they did that to them. We can't do that. Where they control the narrative, right? They go there and they say, oh, Atreides tried to take it over. They tried to overthrow us. They tried to do all stuff. We had to take them out. Where this is the, oh, no, if we spread the word, everyone could kind of get together and rebel against them. And I think that's what you would see in other movies or follow-ups or whatnot, I would imagine, hopefully. Anything else on the Emperor dynamics or stuff? Obviously, not much on the Emperor, but I want to talk about the Baron, and also we talked about Batista. Like I said, I liked him. I love that scene when all those guys are just on their knees and he just hacks them down. That's great. It shows brutality. Again, I wish we got more. I think Kirkland's right. Like just even something with the main characters. Maybe that happens down the road, but it's like, well, we lost Oscar Isaac. We lost Jason Momoa. I don't think Josh Brolin is dead because I'm going with the horror route of if you don't see them die on screen,
Yeah, I
he's
was
not
curious
dead.
about that.
They
Yeah.
did him
Yeah,
dirty with
so
the off-screen death.
yeah, I feel like Gurney will be like somewhere else they'll find him, or like the Emperor could like be holding him hostage. So like if Paul does ever come, it's like, hey, look, like I feel like again he's not dead, but I liked him. I loved the Baron. I loved everything about him. That's where it reminded me of Mad Max, like the aesthetic, the healing baths of like when he rises up, he like has this like white yellowish oil that's coming up, like just the way he moves. Again, I know nothing about Dune, so what the hell's going on with his spine and that he can float? Like everything about the Baron, the Harkins, everything like that, but the Baron specifically was like, man, did Hideo Kojima write this in the 60s? It's like that's what it feels like, a Death Stranding sort of like vibe or villain, just like the oil. I loved everything about them, and they just screamed bad and gross, and just the attention to detail. So I loved the cloaking shield for the people talking. I loved he was always bathing himself, and really well done. Liked all that stuff.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
think he just has the fear factor just from the visuals alone. Yeah, like when he like just climbs up on the table over to Oscar Isaac, or when you just see him like rise up in his throne room. Yeah, he's just such a fucking scary guy. And the fact that he like survived whatever that tooth poison attack was it's funny. He looked like a crying little baby or something, just like huddled like fetal position in the corner, just like trying to keep it out. But yeah, I think they did like such a good job with just like what is kind of your wholly evil character, but he has like just so much intrigue to him. And then yeah, the way Batista's character, who Robin is his name, is, or Rabin, I guess Rabin, I don't know how you pronounce that, but I like that he's kind of just this, seems like a very like not underdeveloped character wise, but underdeveloped in that he's just like whining and crying about everything, and he just like is always gotten his way no matter what. And I'm guessing that's just a Harkonnen thing in general, considering they have like more money than anyone else ever, pretty much. And this whole, I don't know, all these factions, it seems like they have just the most money after being on Arrakis for that long. So I thought he was interesting just because he was kind of this character that couldn't keep it together, whereas I don't know, the Baron just seemed like kind of exhausted, like, but he still just had this grand plan. But yeah, I loved all the scenes they had with those characters, and even the other guy, Peter, I think is, or Pitar, or whatever, I don't know how you pronounce it. Once again, I wrote the name down, pronounce it, but I like that he's kind of the third chair in that room, kind of adds like a fun dynamic, and it made those scenes, which could have felt very generic, were instead like very intriguing, and I want to see more of those characters, and I'm curious about their backstory and more of that stuff.
Taylor, did you know who the guy was who was like the hand of the Baron? Did you recognize him?
Polka Dot Man.
Yes, Dave Dastmalchian.
Baba Yaga.
Yeah, he's having a great fucking year. That guy, like, for such a character, like little character actor who had like one scene in The Dark Knight to now like he's popping up in all these places. It's awesome. And yeah, he was a character that when he died, I was like, oh, I felt the same way about him that I felt about Ebony Maw in Infinity War when he died. I was like, oh, like I could like, he could be my wormhole tongue for like the whole series. Like keep him around, find a way. But no, he was just had such a good presence about him. I absolutely love that character.
Yeah, he was a pretty interesting one. I was talking to someone at work that had read the books, and he was telling me apparently they didn't really go over it in the movie, but apparently like computers are just like banned in the world or something like that. Like they just like outlawed them. So those, like that guy. There's another one that Leto Atreides had. I forget the character's name though, but they're basically just like people that have like these powers from the spice that like make them just like calculators, or like almost like a computer. And that's why like when they go to think, like their eyelids just like go out and they have like white eyes. Basically, they're like basically calculating. Just such a like interesting thing, like, because it's, I don't know, at the time I just didn't know what was going on. It's like, okay, this guy has some sort of power or something, like just makes him different. And his look was just like, again, really creepy, like most of the Harkonnens. And I didn't touch upon Baron. I thought he was just such an imposing force. Like going through, especially like Travis and I went through the James Bond retros. There's some great villains in there, but there's also some really flat villains that I just thought were so lackluster and like so unintimidating, and when they're on screen, I just don't feel like they're really like a villain. He is like the complete opposite. He is just such like a miasma of despair and like just dour feelings. And I thought he was just so creepy anytime he was on screen. Yeah, that float that he did, especially like with like the cloak on him, it made him look like a fucking sandworm when he's just like floating up in the air. Just so creepy and just like ugly to look at. Like just I don't know. I want to know more about him and like what made him that way and like that little like float thing on his spine, like Travis was shouting out. I don't know. There's just so much things that were just introduced that makes me want to go like dive more into the lore because it's just so fascinating. And yeah, I thought all the Harkonnens was just such a creepy vibe, and they looked really, really cool.
The Baron seems like he's just been through so many battles, or not even battles, but he just seems like he's been killed like over and over again. But he says every time he gets rejuvenated by those healing baths, and each time he comes out more fucked up than the last time. And then eventually they gave him like those, I don't know, that new spine. And I'm curious what's under that robe and how if he is flying, if he does have some sort of tail thing. I am really curious what's going on there. But yeah, oh my god, they nailed it. And then I liked the MCU vibes between Batista and Peter, and then even Josh Brolin, of course, as well. I liked I was getting a lot of MCU vibes from those three in this movie.
Well, and don't forget the Baron's also from the MCU. He's Dr. Selvig.
I will forget that for sure.
Yeah, and then you got Oscar, who's gonna be Moon Knight. So, and you got Zendaya, who's MJ. Don't forget.
So the three main Harkonnens are all from the MCU.
Yeah.
That's funny.
Yeah.
I didn't remember the Baron being in the MCU.
Yeah, he gets all naked and loses and whatnot.
Travis, you were mentioning you wanted to see Duncan, Idaho, and God, I forget his name, but Dave Bautista's character just like dish it out. I forgot that they actually are like countering each other in that Apple Plus series C. They're like in like season 2, I think Dave Bautista got introduced. So there you go, you can see that fight there. But I was with you. I also wanted to see them scrap it out. Maybe even him and Gurney.
Yeah, no, I hopefully that'll happen next one. I feel like that we got a Batista or Drax versus Thanos situation, everything. But yeah, I want to talk about Javier and his clan after this next act break. So we'll be right back. See if my Wi-Fi survives. Shaw, man, give me so problems lately. It just like drops me and everything like that. Oh, there it is. I was literally talking about my bad Wi-Fi, and then I just got dropped. My Wi-Fi is just kicking my ass tonight. But yeah, I liked they're a good setup. Like I said, I was surprised about Zendaya. Obviously, seems like she'll be a lot in the next one if we get that. But I liked what we heard about them. I really liked the way Paul learned about everything when he had like that little video log or whatnot, and like showing it on the wall and stuff. It felt very, very video gamey. It was like almost a fun for me. It was a fun way of exposition. He learns about how to like walk in the sand. So I liked all that. I like the setup. I love their little rules as far as like, hey, in a duel, you can't yield. Like someone has to die. All about their culture. Like we only learned a little bit, but I'm excited to learn more, hopefully in the future. And if I don't, then maybe I would do an audiobook or something. But I liked everything about them. And Javier, just always so good. So
yeah, that was my surprise casting. When I saw him, I'm like, is that Javier? No, there's no way. And then like the whole movie, I would just be going back and forth on that. I don't know. He just looked very different from what I've seen him in last, but I thought he was great. He was like a great main guy for the Fremen, or like just like of the clan, for like to be interacting with our Atreides characters. And just the Fremen in general. I thought they're just such a cool like race of people. I loved all the explanation, like Travis mentioned, with like their special walks that they do to like get across the sand so that the sandworms don't come for them. I love their instruments, whether it was like the thumper to attract the sandworm, and their suits were just such a cool design, and I love like the practicality of it, how like it would keep you cool but also gather like your excess liquids and then make it like recyclable so you can drink it. Like they just seem so attuned to their environment, and I thought they were just such an interesting race that was introduced, and I just want to know so much more about them. And they did explain a lot about them in this one, and I think like just give credit to like the movie for just like just making it easily to understand for like a lot of these people like myself that just have no idea about Dune going into this one. I thought it was really, really cool, and I love their blue eyes and like the reason for that, because it's just like exposure to the spice. Just everything with the Fremen was just so well done, and I wanted to know even more, even though it was touched upon really well.
Yeah, I totally agree. To me, that was like, yeah, that was the main draw of all of this, was Arrakis as a planet and the Freeman and how they decide to, or how, not how they decide, but how they learn to adapt being in this environment for, I guess, their entirety as a race. Like, it sounds like they've always been here rather than having come here from a
Mhm.
separate planet, like space travel wise. But maybe that is in the backstory. Maybe they just came here thousands of years ago or something like that. I'm not sure. But yeah, I think there's a lot of room here to see more in the future too, because they talk about how there's kind of like these different sieges, which are like, I guess, kind of like tribes. There's different tribes of the Freeman who will probably have their kind of political differences and I don't their different stances on things. So I'm curious to see how different sieges would interact with each other and if they're pretty unified as like a people, considering that they've been kind of oppressed by the Harkonnen for so long, and then it kind of seems like their planet is just whatever the emperor wants to do with it rather than like of their own choosing.
Mhm.
So I'd be curious to see how like these different sieges interact. I like that they have these crysknives, which are just, I mean, so Chani, Zendaya's character, says hers is made from the tooth of a sandworm, and I didn't know if they were all teeth from different sandworms or if they were made from different things. Did you guys kind of get a vibe for that? At least hers
Yeah,
was made from the tooth of a sandworm.
yeah, it was because they had their own word for the sandworm. I forget what it was, and I wasn't sure if that was like one specific one that they saw like as their god, like it was like the main sandworm, or if it was just all the sandworms to them are like these holy type figures for them.
Mhm.
Um, but no, I just really love their dynamic with the sandworms and how it was this something that was so much bigger than themselves, and it was like it was a spirit of the planet. But no, I don't for sure know if it was just the one, because they had a specific name, but I wasn't sure if that was
Yeah. It
like
seemed like
Travis, for
her
example, like the name
yeah.
of the worm.
Yeah, it seemed like, yeah, hers was like from, I don't know, one of the biggest, baddest worms around. So I'm guessing all of
Yeah.
theirs are formed from different worms. I'm gonna assume that's what the crysknife means. You mentioned the recycling water. I like that one scene too when they're at I think it's like the ecological center, and they have like what would be like a little camping stove or something, and they all just spit on it to kind of
Yeah.
Yeah.
get it loaded up in their canteens. I thought that was pretty funny. Um, I think, I mean, I'm kind of going past the Freeman and talking about some Arrakis stuff in general here, but I also like the para compasses that they have. I didn't fully understand. It seemed they're talking about how rather than the compass like pointing to like what would be the equivalent of true north, like a regular compass would in our world, it's like it it kind of points to there's like some sort of magnetic interference, and that's kind of what it's guiding to, which is interesting, I think, because you kind of need to have a greater understanding of the planet and the world, because these, I guess, magnetic interferences are going to kind of shift around the planet based on the sandstorms. But then they also made it seem that one of the moons that we saw, I love those shots, by the way, when they show the two moons kind of one almost eclipsing the other. I really like that.
Hmm.
It seems like one of the moons, or maybe both of them, have a lot of magnetic interference on them as well. So maybe the compasses are tracking based on the moon's position. But then that's interesting because then the moon, I don't know, in theory, like our moon, it kind of moves all over the sky. So it'd be interesting to see how that works. But I thought it was interesting nonetheless. Um, One thing I really liked that was kind of just said, and I'm curious if this is kind of alluding to what would happen in maybe one of the future Dune books. I feel like this would not happen for hundreds of years, so I don't know if we'll see it in this cinematic universe if we even never get a sequel. But they talk about how there's just like oceans beneath the sand, like far, far beneath the surface. And I thought that was really interesting. They talk about how the plants, like the plant life that does grow uh, on this planet, is just their roots just go down like, I don't know, I guess hundreds of meters or something like that. And Paul even mentions that, oh, we'll make it a paradise someday in the future. I thought that kind of backstory of the planet was interesting, because that seems like to terraform a planet to change it that much would take, I don't know, hundreds, if not thousands or millions of years or something. But Paul's like, oh yeah, we'll get that going right away as soon as I married one of the emperor's daughters, whatever he's talking about there. Um, let's see what else here. There's just so much. I love I guess so. Basically, like we see a lot of equipment, like the spice harvesters, and then we have kind of like those scout planes that kind of go and find the worms. And then there's even like the dragonfly helicopter things. So are all of those from the Harkonnen, or do you think they were like originally Freeman things that were kind of taken by the Harkonnen? At least like maybe the helicopters seem like something that Freeman built or use or have used, but then I mean we see them here. They're kind of just cruising through caves and going on the surface. So did you guys take it like all that stuff and like even that city, that like kind of Giza like city that we see with all the pyramids and stuff? Like, do you think do you take it as that was all Freeman stuff that was taken, or the Harkonnens built that stuff when they came to this planet to harvest the spice?
Yeah, I'm not sure because it could have been someone like some other house that was sent there by the Empire, like even other than the Harkonnens that we've just never been introduced to. Maybe it was the Harkonnens. I felt like it was I don't know, because we saw the Harkonnen planet and like that architecture. It was like it wasn't quite the same as like the buildings that they had in Arrakis. So maybe it was the Fremen, like you said. I also feel like the Fremen would just have like what they have with their
Right.
Zeeches.
The
I
way the
think I'm
walls were
saying that
built
right.
and stuff too. It
Yeah.
seemed like yeah.
Yeah, it left a big mystery, but I liked all the different like gear that was there that like the Atreides people were coming to just take over. Like they're handing over the gear. Like of course the Harkonnens did not leave it in good working condition.
No. No, she even says that line like there's been many of men before you that have tried this or been here, right? So I think it might be a combination of other people, definitely whether it's a Freeman or the Fremen, sorry, or like maybe if there was like another tribe that maybe lived there as well of people like a long time ago that created it, because I'm not sure, were they always living in the sand and the deserts? Were they up there, or was it like them sand deserts and then someone else over there? I don't know. It would be interesting. I bet if we did get more, we'd probably learn more of that, because we probably learn a lot of origin of this tribe and whatnot. But yeah, I don't have like a strong like I could go multiple ways on that one.
Here's some other lore things that I found interesting, I guess, because we were kind of talking about that. There's this scene kind of earlier on when they get to Arrakis where there's a man kind of watering these 20 palm trees, and he talks about how each palm tree, like each day, takes the water 5 men would be, so therefore it's like 100 men's water that they kind of use daily on these palm trees. I thought that was an interesting note. It seemed like one of those things that was almost like a religious thing. Like they feel like the palm tree doesn't really provide for them. Maybe it drops some coconuts every few years or something like that, but it's really not a sustaining thing. It's just like maybe to them it's like a sign, it's like a beacon. It's I don't know, maybe it's something that one Freeman tribe used as a way to show off to the other Freeman tribes that they're kind of opposing or something. So I wasn't sure exactly what about it, but I thought it was a kind of interesting little lore detail.
I just really like that big shot of them burning all those trees down, like just a hard shot, like right before Batista, like literally, like it's funny because like he's chopping the people down, so it's almost like he's chopping the trees down. But like as they zoom into him taking all these people, like we got all this lore of, oh no, we can't, even Paul's like, should we take these trees down? Like, oh no, they're legendary, they mean so much, and then boom, that just shows that they're not just there like take the spice, they're just there to like completely like dissect the entire planet, just to just for they don't gotta burn those trees, but just a message of like, hey, you mess with us, we're gonna take that all down.
I mean we've kind of alluded to this too, but I just think the whole idea of the spice, this kind of like type of sand almost that is had so many effects on the people that live on this planet, and then it's also used for like space travel for I guess interstellar space travel. It's just interesting because that's kind of the root of so many wars throughout mankind, is just like a resource or resources. And so I like that they scale it up, and like this is a resource that is kind of by everyone's admission like the most powerful resource in like I don't know all of the universe. So I think that's interesting that like we're kind of right in the middle of that, checking out this really cool place with this once in a lifetime resource.
Yeah, and I like that they establish like the people that live here are using it for not like good, but like things for their lives, for their well-being. And the other people like, we just need it to be rich and to like travel and stuff like that. Like, it just shows the dichotomy of that. So that I really like that.
I love that the Freeman erupt from the sand to surprise
Yes.
attack people. Every
Oh.
time they showed it, it was so much fun.
Yeah,
And you get
and
the
that's-
music screaming and everything like that.
That's another thing that I just loved on like showing how attuned with like the planet the Fremen were, and just like whether it's their suits, they just evolved to live on that planet. Like I think even someone in the movie makes a line like, "Oh, you wouldn't last however many minutes out there if you're not like a Fremen already." Like one of the locals that are just so evolved to it, and it, like obviously they know how to fight in their own homeworld. Like even in the beginning when it just shows them like ambushing the Harkonnen, like mining ships and stuff like that. Like that whole it's very like Avatar vibes, you know, with like the local, like the natives versus like the people coming there just to like harvest it and take
Right.
like it's very similar in that sense. But I find that really interesting when something like that happens, and you know, in the movie.
Yeah, and like
it's very tragic
even
when it
in, like,
happens in real world.
in the ecological center, like that scene as well, because they kind of someone like spots I forget if that was a Harkonnen or an Imperial trooper at that point that came to the ecological center, but someone like spots them and then they all just like can sink into the sand like instantly. So I don't know if that's like I don't know if that's like some technique they learn how to shimmy down or if it's like their suits that do that. But either way, that's pretty cool. And then yeah, the sand erupting is almost like something like a smoke screen for them as well. Like it's just so smart. And yeah, I love that Travis mentioned the walk. I love that they have a special walk that mimics the way the wind would affect the sand. Did you guys feel like Timothée Chalamet? I feel like his walk was a bit lazy. Like I don't like there's a couple of shots where he was just doing it for an extended period of time, and to me it seemed like he wasn't really doing it all that well. And I mean, maybe he wasn't because eventually that worm did kind of catch on to them, but
I think Jessica's was extremely lazy. I thought his was okay, but
Okay.
Jessica's like trying to copy him afterwards. Nah, she wasn't trying.
she at least
They're
has
in-
like this is the first time she's heard of it, so at least
I'll
you know,
just tell
give
the
her
worm
that.
to leave us
Yeah.
alone with her power
They're
of the
they're
Thune.
injured. They're under duress. You know, they've been through a long day. It's not gonna be their best like worm walk. You know, but yeah. And I guess I just want to show out him because I haven't done that, and I've always joked about this of like he's the hottest thing since sliced bread. That was the thing. And then once I started seeing all this stuff, it's like, oh yeah, he can really do good. And because there's so many times where it's like the chosen one, and you look like a Mark Hamill, you could even argue Keanu Reeves. They're not always the greatest one, and they don't have to be the greatest actor because most of the time they're just like reacting to things, right? It's just like I said, like they're not an empty vessel like a video game character, but it is kind of like that to some extent where they're just being lots of exposition. This is what this character, why they are and why they're created, but it's not really about who they are. I think we did get a little bit of that. I love when he freaks out on Jessica for like, why did you introduce me to all this and you made me a freak and stuff. I think like it's a hard role to play, the chosen one, because that's always such a broad term and it can be kind of boring, but I think he does a great job of just like little moments, little facial features as he does with every single character. And I think Chalamet is just like, he's just so good. Every time he's on screen, it's just, he's going to, and this guy's so young. Like, I can't wait to see the years of performances this guy has, but I think he does a great job as Paul because, well, it sounds like even to me, like, look at someone like Avatar where Sam Worthington, it's like, yeah, he's a fine actor. It's just like, he's the guy that's going to be here taking place to place. It's more about the event, the other characters, but I think he stands, and I think in a sequel, he could stand out even more, but I thought Chalamet did such a fantastic job overall.
Yeah, he was a great lead to like take us through this story. Like Travis said, so hot right now. Like he's just,
Oh yeah,
I don't know. I've
he
only
had two
seen
movies
him.
come out this weekend.
What was the other one?
French Dispatch. It's a Wes Anderson movie. So yeah,
I've only seen him in Little Women. Nothing else, but I just know that he's really popular in like the talks and everything like that, and I think he really delivered on a more like I feel like a lot more general audience type people are gonna know him now from this movie. It's gonna be like, oh, do you know that guy from Dune? Not, do you know that guy from Little Women? So I think it's a good like big movie for him to lead off on just for people to get a taste of what he can actually do as an actor. And he was great, especially like the scene with the Benny, like with the box. I just so gruesome, you know, like obviously he's not actually in pain there. Maybe he is. Maybe that's the trick on why he was such a great actor in that scene.
fucking with them, yeah. He's gonna report them soon, but yeah, another scene that could be super cheesy if you act it wrong, right? Like that.
Oh,
Could be,
yeah.
like you put Nick Cage in that scene, we're gonna be laughing our asses off the whole time. But like you get Chalamet, who has like some gravitas. It's like, okay, you believe every second of this scene. He's very young. I sometimes say Christian Bale, but he's very much like a young Leo to me. He has a heartthrob thing going on and stuff. So.
Yeah, I haven't seen him act previous to this as well, so it's kind of interesting. Just because I've heard of been talked up for the last few years and winning all these Oscars. I don't know if he's actually won any, for he's just nominated, but all this talk around him, so it's cool to actually see him. The only time I've seen him act is there's this SNL skit he did that my sister showed me where he's talking about having a tiny horse. It's pretty funny. I would definitely recommend that, but it's definitely it's no Dune acting. It's not the same kind of performance.
No.
He's not the chosen one in this tiny horse skit, but everyone should go check out that skit as well. I really liked his. I mean, his chemistry with everyone was good, but particularly with Duncan and even with Gurney. It's he's more kind of a hard ass training character, but the way he had like kind of a brotherly, but also kind of looking up to Duncan relationship, I love that dynamic. I love the kind of banter. I love when Duncan kind of says like, "Oh, you've been bulking up there. You got some muscle." He's like, "Oh, you really think so?" He's like, "No." I love their kind of back and forth, and then even the way he greets Thufir or Thufir. Once again, I wrote these names down, but it's like, man, I don't know how to pronounce them all the time. But that's kind of the guy you were talking about, Kirklin, who is for the Atreides. He does like the eye thing, and he's the one who downloads all the information. The way he like, it seems like when they arrive on Arrakis, it's like a very formal ceremony that's occurring where they're all slowly walking out of their ship and kind of greeting the people that they now rule over. But then he just kind of breaks the line and runs over to his friend and gives him a big hug and, "Hey, how you doing, buddy?" And I love that, because he does feel like just this kid that's full of excitement in a lot of ways, which pairs well off of like this kind of royal character who maybe has always been brought up to act a certain way in kind of situations like that, but instead he's just very personable and just has that childlike wonder to him still. I mean, I don't know if he does by the end of the movie, but at least in kind of some of the first scenes when we see him on Arrakis, obviously at that point he's already had like a lot of disturbing dreams and he's freaking out about stuff. But I think that's what's great about him is he is this chosen one character, but he has a lot of dynamic to him. And everything that he does in this movie of having like a lot of power feels earned. I think it's good that we have like a training scene of both the voice previous to when he actually is able to do it, a fighting scene with Gurney before he actually has to use that kind of thing earlier on in the movie. I think those little scenes are good character building moments, but also help sell those scenes when he actually does have to do these big fight scenes or really have to show off his powers, and he's able to.
Yeah, I think also like someone in that role could be so easily seen as just like a super bratty kid, right? Like he's literally just like a prince. Like all of this stuff is gonna come to him whether he wants to work for it or not. But like just the moments that we had with his dad and with his mom, I think it really showed of like where he comes, like what made him the man who he is, and like he has a good sense of duty. He doesn't seem like super lazy when his mom like wants to like get him to train. Like sure, he's like a little pushed, like come on, I just woke up, blah blah blah. But then sure enough, he like tries doing the voice with her, like doing his lessons. Like I just feel like he's really been just groomed that way to be the character that he is from his parents, from his other influences, whether it's Gertie, Duncan, Idaho. Fucking love that name. That was like the coolest name of a character. Such like an action hero name.
Yeah, Duncan, Idaho. He definitely sounds like the worst for the FBI. But yeah, no, and they also do a good job of showing like he's kind of not sheltered, but yeah, he is well protected. Like he's doing that training every day. I think the training was also smart because it established what those shields do without a character being like, "Why do you wear this shield?" And that's where you get the bad exposition.
I love those shields.
Yeah, this so cool, especially that one shot, like the whole movie, like so much gorgeous cinematography. Like there's one moment when they go through the storm and they're shooting the inside the ship, and you see like Jessica's hand grab the wall and all this stuff, like tons of things. But when they're doing the battle, when we joked about them getting fucked up, stuck in the middle, see all the blue shields like turning red, like really cool way to symbolize of like, and it's super smart in a PG-13 movie that you don't got to show any blood in these moments because it's just like, oh yeah, look at all that red, that means they're dead. You don't got to show anything. Like there is some brutal stuff in this movie, but they always like cut away and everything. But what was I gonna say about we're talking about the training? Oh, and then even that moment of he goes out there to save the people with that walker thing with the sandworm that was breaking, everything like that, and then he's having his visions, so he's getting freaking out. He's seeing all this stuff going down, but like right when they get back, like his dad is like, "Hey, you're too important to do anything like that. Like, you know how many people are depending on you. Like you, like there's so it's weird of like his mother in a way is saying is like you're the one, but then his father's also saying like you can't be the hero. Like you have to let other people die before you do. So like what you guys were talking about, you see the dynamic of his parents in him, but constantly throughout the movie you see different shades. And yeah, he has good character or good kind of moments with everybody, which is good because when they do die or perish, you feel bad because he feels bad and that works and everything like that. So
Mm-hmm. And another scene to shout out too, the one with his dad back on Caladan. I'm guessing it's a graveyard. It's kind of, there's all these concrete slabs, these rectangle
Yeah.
concrete slabs. Yeah, I'm guessing there's a graveyard.
it is.
I
He
lo-
mentions that because he says, "Do it for
Okay.
them." Yeah, yeah.
I missed that scene. I missed that note, but I love the dialogue there. The way, and maybe the Duke isn't being truthful here, and in saying that he doesn't have to take on this responsibility. He doesn't have to be the next Duke or take on this power. The role that he has, he doesn't have to follow in his dad's footsteps. Maybe he's lying about that. Maybe he has to no matter what. But I love that he makes it feel like a choice, and he doesn't. It just seems very fatherly rather than, I don't know, just like some very official like signing of the paper kind of thing. I love the dynamic between them in that scene. Just really established the father son relationship in that moment. I felt like.
Taylor, I'm gonna let you talk about Paul, but I'm just gonna rattle off some notes and get out of here because I gotta help put the kids to bed. So, and one's a little sick, so that's why I don't want to leave Emily to do it. So I just want to shout a few things. When Paul was having that vision by the walker, I like when he's like, "Oh, I know your steps, old man," because they made that joke earlier when he's like, "Oh, like you wouldn't hear me walking." He's like, "I know you're walking." He's like, "What if someone like masked it or anything like that?" And it's like, "Well, I'd figure it out." And I like that even in his mid trance, he like had in his mind that was Gurney walking to him even in the sand. So it shows again, it's establishing like he has these powers, but they also train him to be a warrior. And we see him obviously even that like dream sequence where he's messing people up with Zendaya smiling. It's like he can go. So I really like that. I love the very first time we meet what is Zendaya's character's name?
Shawnee.
No idea.
Okay, so Zendaya, Shawnee. Either way, I really love the first time. Obviously, it's all these visions, right? Then we get to the little dugout, the area there. I love the very first time we see her. It's a shot of the knife that he's been envisioning the whole time. It's not a shot of her. You hear her voice, the camera shoots the knife, and then it pans up to her. It's such a fun way of like kind of just that symbolization. And then also they do that right before Paul's gonna have his fight. The shot of Paul first is his hand with the ring on the rock, and then he turns around. It's so good. Like just the things you see first are kind of like what's propelling you forward or the past and the future. So I really like that. One little moment I loved is Duncan when he fought all those guys to get out of that area. There's just 3 dudes that like just backed up. They didn't even want anything to do with him. They just let him take his ship. They didn't even die for their people. They're just like, nah, like we know Duncan, because I like multiple times like, oh, he was trained by Duncan. He's trained by, like they establish, hey, this guy is not who you want to mess around with. So really like that. I think that's all like the little beats. And the only thing I felt weird is like a minor con. I don't know why they played this beat off of Jessica when Paul was starting to unchained. Jessica like looked at him and then she turned around and like Paul looked at her. Not needed. It was weird. Like it's something you do with like romantic couples, like a comedic beat, and they did that with the mother and son. I was like, all right. On that note, though, I loved when he revealed that she's pregnant. It's like, how could you know that? I don't even know that. Like, it's been like only a few weeks, so I really liked that. And yeah, no, that's everything. I wanted to stay, but like I said, you got a sick kid, you don't want to. They're a little messy. So I yeah, thank you, gentlemen, for your time. Taylor, you can talk about Paul. I'll just say that like I think you probably knew from the opening of this. Like, I would give it a 10 10 for enjoyment. I have minor quibbles, like I said, like, oh, well, like St. Batiste for this and that, but nothing that was like, man, that really took me down. Just a massive scale movie, just everything from acting, scale, effects. Like it's just top notch. It's one of these things that, like, it is an expensive movie, but you just see every piece of money that was spent on this on the screen. Like there's not a moment where it took me out of like, oh, look at this bad CGI. Like I hate to say it, but like that's where I was with like the finale Shang-Chi, where it's like the whole CGI just took me out. It was like, I don't believe this world. I believed everything, every area of this world, and the scale that Denis Villeneuve does is just incredible. He's just like, I cannot, hopefully it's Dune what he does next, but whatever he does next, I'm always just can't wait to see. And yeah, it's just a massive kind of, you've got to say the word epic for these type of movies, and it has that. You know, it has also, I don't want to say this, but it has like what I wish Star Wars really had right now, you know, like just this whole vibe and everything. So I loved it. I'm going to listen to the rest of the review, and you guys have a good night. See ya.
Bye-bye. Well, for me, Paul, I think Timothy absolutely landed that role. Like, it was absolutely just top tier. I couldn't really recall anything else off the top of my head that I'd seen him in. Like, the only thing that I was aware of was that, okay, he's going to be playing young Willy Wonka in the new prequel Charlie and Chocolate Factory
Oh
movie.
God.
Yeah, I know.
Wow.
But I loved his vibe. I loved how he looked. I was getting like if young Kylo Ren vibes, and I'm sad that Travis just left because I would have loved to have said this. Like if we were to get like a young Kylo Ren, like Ben Solo thing, it would have
that's
to
the
be
casting.
with Timothy for sure. That's just the way like the apparel they were wearing. It was
The
just
hair.
the hair. Yeah, I love the hair. He dominated that role, and I can't remember which one you guys pinpointed it, but he didn't come off as that spoiled preppy like I'm the prince, I can do whatever you want. Like that was you, Kirkland. Okay,
Yes, thank you.
he was just he was just so maybe she had like a little bit of it, but it wasn't from like a snobby kind of entitlement position. When he was dealing with the witch lady and he was kind of standing up for his mom, it was more or less like coming out of like a position of honor and what's right, more so than preppy. And I like that. And he really sold me on that role of especially him trying to learn by working in the court with his father, trying to understand like the political side and the right thing to do. And the right thing to do was, hey, like, oh, where, you know, his mom was saying like, let's get you out of here. Where he's thinking, no, we're going to work with the Fremens and we're going to, you know, harvest that desert power, see the guy surfing on the sandworm. So that's what he wants.
Yeah, I got a movie that I know that you've seen that he's in. Okay, ready for this? He was in Interstellar. He played the role of Tom when he was 15 years old. So it's like a short gap.
That is so obscure.
You don't remember?
Okay,
him
so
from
I
that
lied.
role?
I have seen
Okay.
him in a movie.
Yeah.
I forgot about that.
I'm not sure where you guys want to go next. I just wanted to quickly mention it because you guys had already talked about that moment where Jessica is like outside of the room when she like brings Paul to like meet like the head of that organization, and she's or the cult we're calling it, and like just her like range of emotions in that moment, because it's like it's one like it's this imposing force that she knows that she can't like go against. Like her child that she loves so much is just literally in the situation that he like she can never see him again, possibly if it goes wrong in that situation. She does have inklings that he is the chosen one, so he will pass the trials, but like also there's just so much like pressure like shown in her emotions in that scene. I thought it was so masterfully done. And like just her in general. I mean, I mentioned the non-spoiler section. I thought she was like the MVP of this, just because there's so many moments where she comes off as like super, super motherly, like her life is just around her son. But then there's moments when I don't remember specifically when it happens, but like it's as if she has like her own plans, like going into a situation, and like things might be going well for like her and Paul, but she's also like kind of like, oh, this isn't going the way that I had planned it. And it doesn't really like talk about that. Like I know we would know more down the line, but she's just a character that's so interesting because it's just so hard to pinpoint like really where her allegiance lies. Like she seems loyal to like what's her relationship with the Duke, the like before like Paul's dad, Oscar Isaac's character.
Yeah, well,
because they mentioned they're not married.
Yeah, I mean they're not married, but I don't know if
They
that's
sleep
a
in the same
Bene-
bed.
yeah, I don't know if that's a Bene Gesserit thing. Like they obviously have a kid together, so
Yeah.
I don't know what there's probably some term for it in the Dune universe or something.
Yeah.
But yeah, they're definitely dating. You could say.
Yeah, they're bone bros at least. But like
Yeah.
I just loved that like there was moments where she seemed super loyal to him, super loyal to like House Atreides, super loyal to Paul, super loyal to the Bene Gesserit. Like she just seems so interesting. And then in that scene that you guys were talking about where like the Harkonnens are like basically just toss them in the desert, and like you get to see just how scary and powerful she actually can be. And oh my god, I'm just so glad that this movie like ended with her still with Paul, because I want to know more about this character so much more. And I guess I'll know more about it in that series that Travis was talking about, the Bene Gesserit one. But nonetheless, I can't praise Rebecca Ferguson enough when she's in movies. I just think she's such a phenomenal actress, and I'm only really getting her in Mission Impossible these days.
I was happy to see her in this because I feel like I've just seen her in kind of some smaller roles here or there. I guess Dr. Sleep, she had a pretty big role.
Yeah, that's right.
But yeah, I mean, you guys have been praising her for years now, and I feel like now I get it. I feel like now I've seen this performance. I was like, yeah, she is amazing. She really can show just this range of emotions, and in one scene can display, I don't know, just a variety of backstory that you're just gleaming from the way her facial reactions are. Yeah, and just like across the whole spectrum, she can act it out. So she was a big surprise character. I want to talk a little bit about Duncan. To me,
Hell yes.
I like the storyline of him being sent as like a spy before the rest of the treaties move to Arrakis, so he can kind of get the laydown, maybe learn some of the, I guess, differentiate between some of the Sieches, maybe learn who are kind of the Freeman leaders, and be able to do some form of diplomacy as much as they can get away with. So I like that part of him. I mentioned I like his chemistry with Paul. I did feel like not to rain on Jason Momoa's parade. I feel like to me a couple scenes I felt like his acting was a bit subpar. Particularly like one of the scenes he's like flying a helicopter, and it's just like obviously he's like alone in a room acting that, and I just felt like he was maybe a bit cheesy. Maybe it's just him. I don't know. Maybe it was just me and the way it hit me. But to me, I felt like a couple times he was maybe a bit cheesy in a movie that had a couple jokes, but none of the jokes were really like, meant to make the theater erupt with laughter, right? They were just like little jokes or little character things you kind of chuckle at or smile at, but I don't know if there's any big ha-has, whereas he felt like maybe he was hamming it up in a couple scenes. But Kirkland, it sounds like you probably will not agree with that sentiment.
No, I like Jason Momoa is getting to that point where I just see him as Jason Momoa, and like he's just a badass like person in general. So like I just always see him as that type of character. I thought he fit the role of Duncan Idaho really well, and that's me saying that I've never seen Duncan Idaho in any interpretations like before this one.
Mm-hmm.
There was a moment that like I literally just burst out loud, and I like burst out loud laughing. I felt bad for people around me because it just caught me off by surprise. There's a moment in this movie when he's just like shaved, and I've never, ever, ever seen Jason Momoa without a beard before, and it honestly like threw me off. His face is so much like rounder than what I was expecting, and like the shirt he's wearing in that scene, he just looks like a pirate. Like he just is shaved, his hair's like in a thing, like he's got like a white shirt on with like these like bracer type things on, and he was like that for majority of like the scenes that he was in the movie. And I had never seen like a trailer with that, so it just completely shocked me. So any time that he was on screen like with the beard on and it would like go close to him, whether it was like a serious scene or something, like I just couldn't help but like chuckle to myself. Like I just thought it looked so strange. Again, that's a me thing. It got me in my funnies for some reason. I don't know why I find that so funny, but it totally shocked me.
No, it hit me too.
Yeah,
I don't think I like had run it through my mind of why it was weird to me. But yeah, there was a point where it's like, this is strange, and maybe that was part of it. Maybe a lot of the time he has these same facial reactions in other roles, but like the beard hides it,
Yeah.
Or, like when you can see it all there, it's like, oh, all his acting is on display now. There's nowhere to hide behind.
Yeah, and I think like I just wasn't really able to take him too seriously because of that, and I can't really remember like the specific moments in general, because I just remember like chuckling to myself that I'm like, this is just so strange for me to see it because I've only seen him with a beard. But until that moment, I didn't know that I had never seen him with a beard before, if that makes any sense. But just him as Duncan Idaho, like when he's coming out of like the ship in the very beginning, like just you mentioned it earlier, Dylan, just his dynamic with Paul, it was just so great. There's so much love there. You can just tell that they're really good buddies. Every time I saw him, like let me rewind that. Like when he is leaving like the planet to go to Arrakis, and Paul's like I need to go with you because I had this dream where you're gonna die. Up until that point, I didn't know that Paul's dreams like weren't coming true like fully. So I didn't think I was gonna see him again. So when I actually saw him in Arrakis, I was like so relieved. I'm like, oh, okay, I'm gonna get more of this character.
That's awesome.
Just
kind of the same
just a fan
character.
Yeah, no, exactly. And I think that was like intentionally done and it was done really well. But because I like Momoa, I wanted to see more of him. I thought he looked badass, and I thought the usage of him was really cool. How he was this like intermediary between like the Fremen people and the Atreides. I like that he had like learned from them, gain respect with them. Like it seemed like they actually respected him as like a soldier, and he was learning their ways. We talked about like that really funny scene when Javier Bardem comes in, like spits on the table, and then like Duncan's there to kind of like smooth the ground, explain like it's just who they are. It's a sign of respect. I thought he was really, really good. I'm sad he died, but Travis mentioned like his death scene. It was pretty badass, just going out like a true soldier. And those were like the how do I say it again, Dylan? It's like Saubakar or something like that. Like the emperor's
let me see. I wrote it down here. Let me reference my notes. Sardaukar, yeah, Sardaukar.
Yeah, like they're just so menacing, and then just to see him just like dismantling them, even though they had like barriers and everything, like he just it went to show the pinnacle of what the Atreides soldier could be. Because I think they even make a line in the movie that like the Atreides soldiers like are really well known for just like being very disciplined. I was getting very like Roman legionnaire vibes. I think that's probably intentional. Like it's the way it's written. They just seem like so just gosh, what am I even trying to say? Well groomed and like very
disciplined. Yeah.
Yes, thank you. That's the word I was looking for. So I like seeing of what the pinnacle of what that soldier could be like, right? With Duncan Idaho, and fuck, his name is so good.
Duncan Idaho. Yeah, it's funny because like Idaho, not a reference to the place in this world, right? Unless there is like a planet Earth somewhere that we assume was the same. Because I think they like they say that like Arrakis is within the Canopus like star system, which is like a star. It's like the brightest star in our sky, I believe.
Oh,
so I don't know if there is supposed to be like some connectivity where it is like takes place in our world. It's just in a galaxy far, far away kind of thing. But yeah, I agree with your points there. Taylor, any more thoughts on Duncan?
How'd that beardless Momoa hit you, Taylor?
Was it caught me by surprise.
Yeah,
I was surprised.
How could it not?
Yeah, I mean, you always see him
without a beard.
No. Yeah, exactly. I've seen him without a shirt, but not without a beard.
Oh, me too. Got one in my room.
I loved his character. He was just exciting. I again, another actor that I totally spaced on expecting to see in here. And when that ship landed and he hopped out, immediately the chemistry that he had with Paul, I really, really was just riding off of that. I think it was you that mentioned it, Dylan, the big brother kind of vibe that they had. It was doing it for me. I loved it. I got really upset when we have the exposition about, hey, you are in my dream and you die. Let me go with you on this first scouting mission because I feel like I can help you. And that made me upset because I thought, okay, is he going to go there? Is he going to die on his first mission? And that's how they're going to kill him off. When we see him come back again after Paul lands there with the rest of the house, I'm super happy that he's alive because then I thought, okay, his dream didn't come true. This is great. But then sure enough, he goes out like a badass though in that hallway, but it's still upsetting because I'm glad that they kept some characters alive for the second part and whatever other parts they choose to do, but I'm still at the same time wishing that we didn't lose a lot of these characters right away. But that's the Game of Thrones aspect that was brought in. It feels like, okay, this is like heavy. We got a lot of these heavy hitter big name actors that are already killed off, which is crazy to think about.
Yeah, it was sad. Especially like just knowing that this is a part one and like we lost a lot of big names like going into future installments. I mean, there's so many great actors out there that you can pull into next ones that haven't been introduced in the story. But I guess since we're talking about those types of characters, Gertie, that was his name, right? Josh Brolin's character.
Gurney.
I mean, sorry, say that again.
Gurney with an N, not a T.
Gurney. There, I was calling Gertie. Gurney. I loved his role. Like Dylan, you mentioned it earlier. Like he fit into like that cliche type, like hard ass character, like tough love on like the prince, even though he loves them at the same time, but also it's like you got to be prepared. You always got to be ready. Like just hitting those really famous lines that we've already seen before. But
yeah,
I love that he fit into that role though, because you kind of have to have someone like that when you're dealing with like a royal type bloodline, right? Like you got to have good guards and like people that are actually taking their job seriously. So I loved his usage. I really liked, Travis mentioned it, but when Paul is having like that trip out scene from the spice, when the worm's coming to get him, and like he's just able to recognize like the footstep, and I don't know, I like their dynamic, and it wasn't fleshed out too much, but from what it was shown, I thought it was so well done. And Josh Brolin is that character, man. He's just he's so good. Even like the line where Oscar Isaac, when they're all standing like waiting for like the envoy of the, basically like a diplomat from like the empire, and he just like quickly says to Gurney, it's like, smile, or does that line, and he's just like so like straight faced because he's just like that cold military man, right? And I thought he was really good.
I wanted to quickly shout out Dr. Yu, who kind of is in the movie a few times and ends up being more important than we would have expected. But I like the character because I feel like he like the way he kind of whispers a couple things in Paul's ears early on, and it just shows that he's like looking out for him. But obviously, already at this point, he's probably already been kind of suckered in by a Harkonnen. It's not in anything of bad faith. Like he's just his wife and kid was like taken, so it all makes sense. But I like the dynamic because I feel like you can kind of see it in his face a bit that he's like hiding something. He's got like some mystery to him, and obviously we find out later what that was. But I think it's interesting that I like that he, even though he's doing the Harkonnen's bidding by turning their shields off and their radar and their communications, I think is what he did. And then obviously he took out the Duke as well. It still feels like he's a character that is like redeemable in a way. Obviously what he did is awful, but you can understand why he did it. And I like that he kind of leaves the care package, so to speak, with Paul. He leaves him the ring. And he has like the note that he gives him with it has like the diamond that he had on his forehead. I wonder if that diamond is like signifies they're a doctor. I wonder if like all doctors are supposed to have that thing, or if that was a him specific thing. But I'm guessing it was the doctor, right? Because the reason that package was put on that ship was because it was supposed to be like a med kit, right? I think that was like what the idea was. So it probably was a doctor specific thing. But yeah, I don't know if I really have any more to say about the character. Like he doesn't have too much dynamic to him, but I thought like it made sense as like the character who kind of turns against his people, but it makes sense why he did it. But like he's still doing what he can against the Harkonnens, and obviously he gave the tooth to the Duke as well. So I like the way that character was used. I love that.
I think that's like a rare trait too for a role like that, because we've seen that so many times of like, okay, well, who betrays them? Like this one random character, and he's just like, oh, fuck you guys, I'm betraying you. But here it was like he was torn, like I literally just have to do this for the one I love. But also here, you're gonna take out the Baron, like the evil person. I'm gonna give this ring to your son, like the bloodline's not over. Like he's very torn for what he's doing, but he's also helping them out. Obviously he's betraying them, but like it's so easy to just be like, oh, screw you guys, I'm gonna betray you. But like just I don't know, like leave it there. Like there was more layers to his betrayal, and very sad ending. I kind of saw that coming. Doesn't seem like the Baron's that I don't know, just that nice of a guy. I kind of assumed he was just gonna get murked like that, but I'm glad he at least, I don't know, had the possibility to take out the Baron with that tooth.
He murked his family already too, because I thought that okay, obviously his family's still alive, but when the Baron's like, "Oh, I'll send you to see your family," and then he kills him, like, okay, that's probably a pretty strong indicator that his wife and kid are dead.
Yeah, I felt
don't
bad
trust
for
the
him,
Baron,
even though he did bad shit.
Yeah,
I think it was
also
all
just like.
Sorry, go ahead.
I was gonna say I just loved his powers in general, like being a doctor, but like doesn't really need instruments. It seems like he's got some sort of psychic ability to like read Paul's vitals. Just his look in general. Like Dylan, you're mentioning like, or you're posing the question rather, if like that symbol is just for doctors or if that's like his house symbol or something like that. Just makes me really want to know more about those type of characters. Even God, I was gonna try the name there. I knew I would have butchered it, but like the people that are like calculating the numbers, just the different types of people in the world, just so fascinating. It just goes to show like the world building that they were doing in this, and just showing different things that are in this world that are so different than what we're used to, right?
That was all my like character or like story specific notes. Do you guys have anything else kind of in those categories?
Nope, I have no more on the characters.
We should mention the sandworms a little bit more. I love these as just like a threat of this world. I love that they can just be. I think they said up to 600 meters in length, which is just fucking insane. And yeah, I think it was just such a great, just menacing, completely, just this threat that you cannot even conceive. This threat that you can like see the effects of what it does, but you can't really see the entire thing because it's just so massive. I think all the scenes with the sandworm with the sandworms in them were really interesting and were very intense. Even if you know, like, well, obviously Paul is going to make it out of here alive, but there was even some scenes where, like, the one where Paul and Jessica are running away, like, and trying to get to that rock. Like, I didn't even know. Maybe in that moment, maybe like Jessica could have died there. Like, I could have seen that, and I felt like they, just because we had seen so many other characters dying, I feel like Paul's pretty safe, but everyone else is like up for to get taken out here. So I like that they kind of had that imposing threat at all times. And that scene when we're seeing the Sandworm coming for the I guess spice refinery thing, the spice harvester is the word I'm looking for. Like I love that whole scene. And I like that the Freeman could ride them. I think that was really interesting as well. You kind of mentioned the thumpers. I think that's great as like an adaptation of how to deal with them. But I also love just in general that they track people or prey based on rhythmic noises. I think that's just
really, it's like
really
Tremors, right?
Yeah.
I was waiting for Kevin Bacon in this. No, I love them as just like a neutral villain, right? Like they're not really on anyone's side. They're just on Arrakis's side. It seems like there's some I don't know, sort of relationship between like the natives, the Fremen people, but like I still feel like if they don't have those thumpers and like obviously they have these dances, like the worms don't know that like, oh, I'm gonna go eat these people that are the Harkonnens or something like that. You know, like they just go off the vibrations, and just such a cool type of villain. And I mean, I've seen giant worms before in the past. A lot of them are probably inspired by Dune, honestly, because I don't know when the book was made or anything like that. But just that idea of on this planet at all times, there's multiple like of these just giant worms. Of like Dylan said, like they can grow up to like 600 feet. Can't even comprehend what the size of that was, but I love the usage of them. I thought the first time that we saw it, with that scene with like the spice harvester, was just so cool. And like when you just see like the mouth open up, basically like a sarlacc pit, just just so menacing. And then later on, with Jessica and Paul, and then it like rises up, and then just kind of looking at them there, I was expecting, I don't know, there to be a lot more emphasis on like Paul being the chosen one, like maybe he's able to like commune with it or something in that moment. Didn't happen. Probably would get that down the line, but
yeah, I'm glad that it didn't, right? Because everything else we've talked about in terms of his combat strength or his ability to use the voice power, I don't know if that had a name for it, like when they can.
I think it called it the voice, and at one point they called it the way of the voice. I'm like, I am watching Skyrim, the movie.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Boom.
So yeah, like all those other things that he's able to do as the chosen one are all like, okay, he's the chosen one, but he actually, we know like from previous experience that he was working on these things. He was training, he was trying to get to that point.
Yeah.
So if he just randomly out of nowhere was able to, tame this worm, I feel like that would have been
he's like riding him in to like fight the Harkonnens.
Yeah. Well, that's something I'm super curious for if we do get the sequel is, man, I really want to see how they do it. I want to see what if it's like some piece of equipment they have, or if it's just like some relationship they've built, because obviously if they have the walk and stuff, like the worms will still kill them, it will still eat the Freeman, but there is a way that they can get on their backs and use them. And even then, like all those people are just standing by when that guy is riding it around. So I don't know if like somehow maybe that worm they found like at birth or something and like trained it. Like I'm really curious to see how they do that, if it is just equipment thing, or if it is some like relationship that they've built with the worms over the hundreds of, I don't know how long they've been on this planet, but let's say hundreds or thousands of years. I'm really curious to see that.
Yeah. Did anyone else feel like the voice felt like another version of Jedi mind control? Maddie Sags in the chat. I get like, yeah, similar, absolutely. Sure. I think the way that it was portrayed, though, it made it very like its own thing. How like it would be this very loud voice, almost like it's internally, and then like there was a couple moments where you see them like walk and do the action, but there's sometimes where like the action just already happened, and like it's exactly like if I was affected by the voice that way, like I wouldn't see myself doing the act. It's just like once it's over, it's like, oh my god, I just threw my buddy out of the ship or something like that, or oh my god, I'm already like right in front of this lady kneeling. I love the way that was shown, and with like the audio effect, it was just so imposing and so creepy, and like it gave these like with the Bene Gesserit, it just gave them so much power. And I'm seeing this like, okay, it's elderly lady, like almost like an aristocrat type look. And then all of a sudden she just like snaps his voice. It's just like, oh my God, okay, she's like one of the most powerful characters probably this entire movie, you know, like it was very well done in my opinion.
Yeah, it was great. I have some. I okay. So here's the thing. I think maybe my favorite, like, just individual moment, was in that Paul and Jessica scene when that worm is chasing them to that rock. In the theater, this was like one of the best theater experiences I feel like I've ever had. For that moment alone, like whatever it was, the audio in this theater that I've never been to this theater that I went to last night, but or on what day is it today? When I went on Friday, I've never been to this theater before, but it had like this 3D audio, something going on where it was like the ground was rumbling during that scene, like just specifically and only below me. It was like rumbling.
The worm's coming up to get you.
It was a real earthquake.
It was like,
they didn't tell anyone.
Earthquake underneath me, and it was fucking amazing. The way they were able to do that in the theater, like for years I was like, man, I don't really care about this 3D. Like I'll just go for the 2D anytime there's an option when we would go to the movies. But I was so glad I went for the 3D, and whatever the audio system this theater had made that scene so immersive. And I was just like, I just felt like I was in that scene with those characters, and I felt uneasy because I'm like shaking in my chair as they're underneath my feet. So I don't know if that had the same effect for you, Kirkland, in the theater.
Yeah, I saw it in the Extreme Theater. You've been to that theater, I'm sure you've been to that theater on the west side. Yeah, it's got like the 3D audio type thing, and it definitely was like affecting. I think I felt it more so with the voice moments because it was just like a quiet scene. All of a sudden, it's just like really loud and like as if it's in your head and like it's coming all around me from the top, like it's coming from the roof and everything just all around me. But also just like those type of moments where like I know it happened for sure in that scene that you just described with them running from the worm, but also some other moments. And this is a big like Hans Zimmer thing. Like I thought like the audio just added so much to those suspenseful moments. I don't even know how to like describe the music that was going on, but like a lot of it was just this like very like weird chanting type thing, and it was just like very tone setting, and it just, I don't know, it just creeped me out, and it added so much like anxiety to those scenes where it's like, oh my God, this is so intense. And maybe I was getting vibrations, but I feel like maybe my senses just tuned more to like the audio, and I thought that it was, I mean, in the non-spoilers, we mentioned the music by like Hans Zimmer, but like, holy shit, it just carried this movie to a whole nother level. And it was so masterly well done. Like Hans Zimmer is just on another level. Travis mentioned like No Time to Die, like again, just stellar music in that one. And yeah, it was just so good.
You know that meme where it's like John Williams like playing the piano on fire? That's Hans Zimmer. Like his piano is literally just engulfed in flames.
Yeah, and I felt it in those scenes, in those moments. And like it wasn't even just the intense scenes. Like when it was like the more emotional moments, it was just everything was just 10 out of 10 music wise.
Like even when the ships are rising out of the water when House Atreides is
so
leaving,
epic.
it's like that's like it's
that with the 3D was like, that was just an amazing shot. That might be my favorite single shot of the movie, is the ships coming up bird's eye view from the water. Oh,
it's so such
good.
a cool
definitely Golden Geeks worthy for sure.
There was many moments like
that has like no character moment to it, but it's just the music,
just all CGI. But it's gorgeous, and there's so many moments like that in this movie.
I mean, it's true, man. He, like, from start to finish, he did this. The score is perfect. It is very reminiscent of Blade Runner, which I love the soundtrack of that movie, and the way it just establishes this atmosphere and has this kind of unsettling and epic nature to it. Just the layers that he builds are insane. I really liked what you mentioned there with kind of sometimes when we have like those kind of audio cues, but when we're in the Freeman zones or we're with the Freeman, and kind of have these kind of tribal chanting kind of, it was like, it's not in this first layer or second layer or even the third layer. It was kind of like way in the back, and we kind of come in and out. But it kind of established this vibe, almost like kind of Middle Eastern chanting. Like it just makes you think of like, I don't know, Egypt or like something like that, or kind of like, it almost had like kind of Indian music in a way too. So the way it kind of established those kind of audio cues when we're in these like massive desert scapes was just amazing. The music on Getty Prime when That's the Harkonnen homeworld. That was
Okay.
just pure Blade Runner. Like even the look, how it was like. Of course, it's just always nighttime on this planet because it's an evil planet. But like the way the buildings looked and the music, honestly, could have been taken from Blade Runner. Like it was so close. Yeah, I loved that. Just the music makes all the difference in this movie, and this movie would be, maybe this is hyperbole, but it honestly would be like half as good without the soundtrack. It is so important for this movie, and the fact that it's like just killing it from start to finish is just amazing.
Yeah, I don't even think it's that far of an exaggeration. Honestly, it's so like I said before, like it just lifts it to such another tier that like it's hard to imagine what it would have been like if the audio was done poorly. Because I truly think it's like the backbone of some of those scenes.
Definitely.
Fairfield, Hans Zimmer, huge Hans Zimmer fan. I know you are.
I'm a huge Hans
You're
Zimmer
a score
fan.
boy.
Like, I'm a score boy. Yeah, up on the scoreboard, Hans Zimmer definitely is like top 3. Like as of late, like for me, John Williams, Michael Giacchino, and then Hans Zimmer. Not necessarily in that order. Just like they're legendary. I mean, if you look at the portfolio Zimmer has, this is another one that you can add in there that is just top tier, absolutely incredible. And I honestly thought he was starting to simmer down after the. I'm going to use the Dark Knight as an example. I just felt like he was just kind of quietening down, but now that he's back and he's just popping off, like, thank you so much. I'm so happy that he's just getting in there. He's getting his what is the thing called? His thing dirty. The little wand.
The conductor one. I don't know what it's actually called.
What are those called? What do you got, Dylan? What is it called?
I don't know what that's called.
He's got a phoenix hair in there. A phoenix feather. 12-inch.
Conductor's baton, I guess. Yeah, the thing.
Baton.
Yeah.
I would not have thought of baton. That I think
No,
of
not
weapon
when
when I
either.
hear baton. I guess you could use it as a weapon if you want.
The motivator. It's the conductor's motivator when people are doing terrible. Throw it at them.
Another scene I wanted to shout out, and this one isn't necessarily the music, although the music, of course, amazing, is when and I wrote the guy's name down, so let me find it real quick. But the Herald of Change is the guy. So when the ship comes down in Caladan, and then all the people come out, and then you kind of have the guy who calls himself the Herald of Change, and this guy just has, I don't know if I've ever seen someone with such a beautiful bone structure. Like this is like the template of like a beautiful person. This guy that comes out and has kind of got his minister outfit going on. Kirklin's talking about maybe get an ad break in a second here. Just let me finish this one point, and then we can do that.
Of course. I was gonna play.
But there's like this scene where the Herald of Change comes down. They're talking about stuff, and he's talking about all the different like factions. And the camera like starts on the left, and it's kind of cruising over to the right. And I thought it was really cool the way it lined up. And I was on the second watch because I whipped this up on a streaming service yesterday to kind of watch a couple of the scenes over. Which really helped because sometimes it was hard to hear the dialogue because the music is so intense. But in this scene, he's talking about like the different factions, and he's talking about like the Imperials, and so you can kind of see these guys in the black suits, and then he mentions like the Spacing Guild, and it's like these guys in like these really weird alien costumes, and they have like staves. I want to hear more about those guys if we do get a sequel. And then that's when he mentions the Bene Gesserit as well, and then it shows that kind of the Revenant or the Reverend, I think is what her name was. And then that's when the camera like flips and shows Jessica's point of view, or it shows her face as she looks at the Reverend and is just like terrified. So that I wanted to show that scene because I thought it was so cool the way it kind of establishes these factions by just having the camera pan, and then it's like panned over that certain person that he mentions. It just it all timed out with the dialogue was like, I'm sure they had that written on a piece of paper with the whatever they call it when they're planning out all the scenes before the movie's put together. I don't know my stuff, but it was just so well orchestrated that I love that scene.
Yeah, I kind of forgot about that scene actually till you mention it now. And yeah, it's really cool just to highlight the different factions like you mentioned.
We got a question from Maddie. I'm curious because we kind of mentioned this, but Zendaya as Chani, maybe she was kind of in the marketing a lot, and obviously she's a big name right now. But do you guys, we kind of talked about how she wasn't really in it that much. Like she was in it a lot with like these kind of future scenes, these visions from Paul. But would you guys say you're disappointed that she wasn't in it as that much? I don't think I'm really disappointed with it. I guess I didn't really have the expectation that she was going to be in it a ton. But I don't know what's your guys' take on that.
I think I'm a little disappointed because I just love Zendaya and I wanted to see more of her.
fair.
And from the trailer usage, I was expecting more of her. But in hindsight, I think it's so perfectly like they used her so perfectly. I think because it's like the main vision that Paul's having. So then it's the main vision I was having when I was thinking of the movie. It was Zendaya. So good little parallel there. But also, it's just I mean, for someone that doesn't really understand how important she is in the books, I think the way that she was sprinkled in there throughout the movie and throughout his visions, it was really, really good. And like him leaving with her at the end, and then the movie ended. That's where I was like, oh, I just need to know more. Like, come on,
Yeah.
like they're like, because I think like my favorite parts of the movie was like near the end, like when he was kind of with like with the Arrakis like native people, the Fremen, and also just I don't know when they did like the trial by combat gets through that, and I'm like, oh my god, this is so exciting! Like I just want to know more here. And then the movie ended, and then
Mhm.
that's when I'm like, oh,
Yeah.
I'm getting that like Jack against the Kraken, at the end of Dead Man's Chest, and I'm like, are you kidding me? It ends there. So and like I wouldn't have that feeling if the movie wasn't amazing, right? So it just goes to show like how good of a movie this actually was. But yeah, with Zendaya's character, in hindsight, I think it's perfect the way they did it. And even in the marketing, like I think it's so well done and like strategically used in that sense. But as someone that just loves Zendaya, of course I wanted more of her. Come on. Of
Mhm.
course I wanted her.
Well, yeah, and there's so much intrigue to her character as well. Like
Mhm.
obviously with Paul, we should maybe talk about the visions a bit, because that's like one of the things that makes her so intriguing. Is like, is she an agent of chaos? I'm just gonna stab him in the stomach as soon as she meets him, or are they gonna be hooking up? Are they gonna go on these adventures together? We don't really know. We obviously don't get that answered here in part one.
Yeah.
But yeah, what do you guys like? I'm curious what you guys take on these visions were, because I guess they're very much not a That's So Raven style vision where it's just the exact scene going to happen, but it's more about like, okay, how is that scene going to happen? But more, it's like almost like a Doctor Strange kind of like possible worlds thing, that like these
Yeah.
things could happen, but Paul has a say based on his actions to change these things, or maybe but then he could also be guided in like a corrupt way if he like sees one vision and he thinks, "Oh, I want to be in that possible world," and then maybe he sways things in a way that he shouldn't. So,
Yeah.
what was your guys' take on the visions?
Taylor, you go first.
It's tricky because I feel like there's so many other factors from like other medias out there that can influence my perspective of visions. Like you could look at it, yeah, he's experiencing these visions and they could sway how things go. You could look at these visions and maybe he gets compromised, as you said, Dylan, like tries to change him or something along those lines. At the same time, the gist I kind of got from this film and its general plot is okay, the visions that are happening are concrete and it's just that's all there is. And yeah, we got an inkling of Paul thinking, hey, I can maybe change it. And maybe that's something they'll touch upon later on. At this point, the only thing I know and I can go off is okay, these visions are concrete. Nothing can be done to change or alter them. And it's just the flow of time. He's gotta go with that, deal with it. Yeah.
It's interesting because I felt like they weren't dove in enough maybe for my liking, and maybe that's a reason to just leave it kind of vague. Like it's probably a big mystery like going forward in like the next part and stuff like that he'll eventually reveal. It'll be a big moment for the character and just what that means for in general. Because it seems like a really rare gift. Like the head of the Bene Gesserit was like very interested in his dreams.
Mhm.
She even dropped the line like, "Do these always come true?" And he said like, "Not exactly." And like that one answer right there is kind of like how I felt on like visions. I'm like, okay, like I don't know one way or the other. Like maybe they do come true, maybe they don't, and it didn't. I don't know. And like I said, I think the vagueness was strategically done. It was probably written that way in the book that he doesn't really find out the meaning of it till later on, but it made it like really suspenseful when he, like I was saying earlier, like when he has the vision that Duncan Idaho is gonna get murked, and I'm like, no, I don't want Duncan Idaho to get murked. I want to see more of Momoa, and then he doesn't, and then it's like, okay, this is interesting. And then when he's having the visions that are literally like helping him in certain moments, whether it's like someone that he's dialoguing with in the vision, giving him like some sort of motivational speech or some sort of information is being relayed to him, and he's taking that and he's like growing from it. That's a very interesting thing right then and there, because these visions aren't just from the future, they can be from the past, and he's taking information from these types of visions that aren't even necessarily happening. So I can see why that would go to show he is this type of messiah character that is just gaining knowledge from so many different places, and he's not even like physically there, like in the moments. It's not like he went, oh, on this date this year when I was 20 years old, I faced this person that taught me this lesson. It's like, no, he could be just having visions about so many different things and just absorbing so much information that way. So I find them really interesting. Like Taylor mentioned, I just have this preconceived notion of what visions are because of just other medias that I've seen. And this is very different from what I'm used to. And yeah, I liked it.
Yeah. And it's interesting because it's almost like he's kind of losing himself a bit too, because earlier on in the movie, it's always like in place of where a dream would be, he's having these visions like in the night, and then he wakes up. But then later on, he's just kind of, he's in like this dire situation where there's a sandworm about to eat him. And then he's just like has this vision kind of uncontrollably. So yeah, I wonder if like being on Arrakis changes it as well with the spice in the air and all that. If it is part of what's affecting it, or if he's just becoming more powerful, or if it's just he's evolving in some way. So there's a lot to find out more in the future potentially.
And like another thing I was gonna mention about the visions is like when I forget the doctor's name, but like when they're suiting up the Duke, Paul, it might have been Gurney, like one other character that were wearing the suits, and unfortunately I forget what the suits are called. But she like goes to Paul. It's like, oh, you've worn one of these before. Like this technique that you have is like really unique. He's like, no, never worn them before. But like he must have just learned wearing it that way from his visions, right? Like, and that was something that was unclear to me in the early stages of the film, because I'm like, okay, there's probably some weird thing where like he's lived another life and he's like been there before. Maybe I don't know. I really didn't know where it was going.
Yeah, I guess that could be a vision thing. Well, I'm sure it is, but then there is also like multiple scenes where he's just straight up learning stuff about the planet through like these kind of hologram things.
Oh,
like
true.
These kind of visual textbooks, so to speak.
The holocrons.
These kind of holographic textbooks that he's just kind of learning lore. So like maybe that would be where he would have learned that particular thing. But I think it actually does make more sense that he had some vision of like, well, obviously we've seen in his visions that he's worn these suits and that he's been cruising around doing some battles and stuff. I mean, maybe not at that point. It's hard to remember exactly where each vision happens off the top of my head. But yeah, I feel like it could be that, but it also could be that, yeah, he watched a video on it. Not a YouTube video because there's no computers, but a textbook hologram video.
Maddie Sags, that's the question. Did they reveal who the Emperor was, or is it supposed to be the Baron? It's not supposed to be the Baron, I would say.
It's not. Yeah, those are different. Those are different factions. The Imperials and the Emperor. Well, actually, the Emperor, the Imperials, and the Harkonnen are all different factions, right? Like the Imperials are kind of employed by the Emperor, but they're kind of a different faction in and of themselves, is the way I took it. Like they're almost just like the Imperials are just like mercs for hire that are kind of under the Emperor's fingertips.
And that's
but not
the
necessarily
white,
like the same
the white troops,
the same
right?
people. Yeah.
The Samarkand or whatever.
Yeah, that creepy cult planet. Everything's creepy and culty.
They're like shock troopers.
Yeah, shock troopers. I had one question for you guys. Like I said, I saw the movie on Friday night, and then I loaded up on streaming service yesterday and watched a couple scenes again. And even watching this scene a couple times, I was still a little bit confused. So there's the moment where Paul and Jessica join up with the Freeman, and they kind of have this fight scene, and then Jessica kind of bests Javier Bardem's character that I can't remember the name of off the top of my head. And then Paul goes up on the hill. And then so I'm a little bit confused about the fallout here. So there's one of the people, part of the Freeman tribe here. He's like, okay, because the way I took it, the dialogue, it made it seem like he was talking to Javier Bardem's character, and he's saying, hey, you lost this fight against Jessica, so I'm like challenging you for your spot. But then he's like challenging Jessica, but then Jessica has a champion that's appointed, and I didn't know what the champion was about. Like, is that because she's a woman? Is it because she's a Bene Gesserit? I couldn't really understand that part. Like, why wouldn't he just challenge Jessica straight up? Why is there this champion thing? Would everyone have a champion?
Yeah,
like he's challenging the leader because the leader lost to Jessica, but then he's fighting Jessica. So can you guys clear this up for me? Because this is the one thing in the movie that I'm like, I don't know what's going on here. I was very confused.
Yeah, it's funny. I haven't put too much thought into like why Javier Bardem's character wasn't just fighting the other guy, right? Um, the whole champion thing, I feel like it definitely could be the Bene Gesserit thing. That's probably a big reason because you got to imagine even like the Freemen know about what the Bene Gesserit. Like it seems like they just have such a presence like throughout the galaxy or whatever the hell they are. Again, it could just be. I mean, we saw that in the Game of Thrones, right? Like when like Tyrion is like battle or trial by combat, and it's like, okay, well, I'm allowed to have a champion. Maybe that's just like that's the way it is. Anytime there's a trial by combat, you can always just get a champion if someone agrees. And you got to imagine with how powerful Jessica is. I think Paul still has so much more training in hand-to-hand combat. Like that's just so much more about his curriculum.
But like,
so,
are you not allowed to use the voice either? Because she could have easily destroyed that guy with the voice.
Yeah, that's a good question. Just like stab yourself.
Like, but if it's like a matter of life and death, like I don't know if she would care if it's banned.
No, yeah, and it's a good question because I kind of like I didn't have an issue with the whole champion thing. It was more so, and again, I wasn't thinking about this till right now. It's like, why was that the person that they were fighting? I kind of missed that point. Taylor, did you catch that?
I think it's just up to interpretation. I didn't really look into it too much. Just probably the Game of Thrones route that you mentioned probably makes the most sense to me.
But like, why would he be fighting? Why wouldn't he be fighting Javier Bardem? Because if he's fighting for like the leader of the
well, because he wasn't worthy, right? He got bested, so he's still the leader, but I don't think he can represent himself. I think he needs to have a champion fight for him.
I guess it was that this Freeman guy didn't want them to join their siege, I suppose is what it is. And even then they talk about how there's like this 1-for-1 thing that if someone joins, someone else has to die or something along those lines. But then that doesn't even really make sense because this one guy died and then Jessica and Paul both joined. So it's like, well, it was kind of a 2-for-1. They got a little 2 birds with 1 stone there. So yeah, I think that's kind of the one thing that I'm confused by in this movie, which is pretty good considering there's so much nomenclature and so much like jargon going on that I feel like, wow, that's the only thing I don't fully understand. I think that's a pretty good ratio. But I'll have to hit up the internet. Hopefully there's some Reddit question where some guys like someone explain this scene and then I can kind of just vicariously learn through that.
I mean, it could be that like he just doesn't want to kill one of his own. So like if he was bested by Jessica, then technically Jessica's more powerful than Javier Bardem. So then he's gonna fight Jessica. If he beats Jessica, then he's the new leader of the Zeech, and then they don't have to kill each other.
Yeah, again, the Freemen have a lot of
huge guessing there.
Rules
yeah, absolutely.
One last minor question for me, and then I just have a couple of last notes. But we see this scene a couple times where there's like a giant donut kind of in the atmosphere around this. I don't know if it's just Arrakis or if I can't recall if Kaladin had one if we saw that planet, but it's like a giant donut, and I was curious like what's going on there. Like I don't know if it was like that's where like light speed, like that's essentially like a little barrier that you would aim for, and then it would shoot you there, or if you have to go through that so that you're like kind of identified as coming to this planet as like a border kind of thing. I don't think it's ever explained. I think it also just looked cool, this giant donut in the sky. But what do you guys think is going on with those donuts?
Yeah, like at first I thought it was like the ships of the Harkonnen or something like that's like the mothership, and then they're sending down more of their troops. Could have been one of like the Imperial type things, and that's where like the Cybercar, whatever the fuck they're called, like they're coming from. But it seemed like multiple times like ships were coming from that zone. So it easily could be like a gateway, and then that's where they're kind of like that's where you would insert the spice as a resource, and then you go there, and then you can do like multi-dimensional travel or whatever the travel is in there. Yeah, no, I agree with you. I think it looks so fucking cool of just like up in the sky you just see this giant like space type station. It's no moon, it's space station. But yeah, no, I missed like specifically who owned that, or
I don't think they ever mention it. I was just curious. I just had a couple last little notes here. So I mentioned how immersive I felt this movie was, and we've kind of covered that. It's with the cinematography, it's with the world building, it's with the sound. But another couple little things I liked was there's no opening credits for this movie. Like it says Dune Part 1, but there's no directed by, starring over the course of like 5 minutes that a lot of movies have. And so I really like that because I feel like it kind of puts you in the world. You don't see these people as actors. You just kind of are, from the second the movie starts, you're kind of immersed in this world, and it's like this fully escapist sci-fi world rather than being this Hollywood movie. So I really like that. Then I also really like that there isn't like so many like times in this movie there's like some jump of time where in most movies it would say like, 6 weeks later, 4 months later, 2 years later. And I feel like there's probably 3 or 4 points in this movie where they could have done that, but I like that they didn't, because it just makes it feel a bit more immersive for some reason. But I also like that it's kind of up for interpretation, because for the most part it doesn't really matter if it's specifically 6 weeks or specifically 1 week. It seems like the story beats and the places we are when we go from these kind of cuts never seems to be jarring. And I liked that. I think maybe the one that maybe could have been helpful to the story is like, I'm curious how soon after the Atreides come to Arrakis that the war starts and that they start turning their backs on it. Because like, I'm guessing that pretty shortly after they moved this planet is when the Duke would want to go into one of those helicopters and go check out like the spice refineries. But maybe that takes a couple weeks after they move there. Maybe it's like a month or two, or maybe things are good for a few months, but then like the equipment starts to break, things are going downhill, and that's when he wants to go see that stuff. Either way, I like that they didn't have that. I like that they didn't have the opening credits. I like that they didn't have these time jumps. Really, the only like text we get on screen that's kind of I don't know. Really, the only text we get on screen that isn't in the world is Dune Part 1 and like the names of the planets when we go to like Caladan, the home world of the Atreides and things like that. So I liked those two little details.
Yeah, I don't think the time jumps like were necessary to have on there, whether it was like 2 months, 5 years, whatever the hell it was. So I liked the usage of it. Just like some of the pacing things, whether it was like them in the council chambers, like kind of going over what they have to do to like get Arrakis running. They like mentioned like one thing, and then all of a sudden they're like at like the silo. I just felt like a lot of that like jumping around in the beginning stages was just a little rush for me. And in that moment, that's where I was like, okay, they're gonna wrap up the entire story in here. So I totally understand why they're just glossing over that. But then like it wasn't the case. Like it is supposed to be multiple movies. So then I was thinking back to that and having a little bitterness in those moments, but nothing too major. You were mentioning like the no credits at the beginning. I absolutely loved how the very first like thing in this movie, it was just like that one little line, and it was like dreams are memories from the deep or something like that. And then it goes to like the logo of like, I don't even know who made this film, but like goes to like the company, and then like next shot, and then like Dune, I believe it goes there, and then it goes into like Zendaya narrating about like Arrakis. But just that very, very first thing, it's so easy to forget about that too, like later on in the film of, and again, I think I paraphrased that. I don't think I got it specifically, but like dreams,
I'll have to go back and check that.
Some significance to dreams. And it's such an important thing throughout the movie is like Paul and his visions and these dreams, and if they are just dreams or if they are actually visions. And it was just such a really good line, like right at the very beginning of the movie. And it's I guarantee you so many people would have like forgotten about that moment like later on the film. But I don't know, I love that because I was not expecting that. I'm like sitting down with my popcorn, I'm like, hey, are we no more trailers, or is it gonna get like the logo of the movie started just like dreams are from, or memories from the deep? And I'm like, whoa, holy shit, this is happening right now. And then it goes to like again, whatever the logo is of the movie makers, but it was just really cool to have that before even like the company's logo. So
definitely. That was all my notes, boys.
Just quickly shout out some scenes, unless Taylor, you had anything else you want to mention?
I got nothing.
So the scene when they're going into like the sandstorm, and Paul has like another vision there of like just tripping out there, and then he eventually just takes his hands like off the wheel, and then like they're just like so at mercy to the storm in that scene. I just thought it was so intense, especially like with the audio of like as if you're like in the ship and it's just so loud of like the sand storm all around you. It was just a really intense scene. I liked when they came out of that. It was pretty stressful and like their wings weren't opening. And then another scene I'd mention would be like when they're trapped like in the sand. I love that little like igloo thing that they have. I forget the specific like item that they use to like get through the sand. I believe Duncan Idaho gave it to him, but I
Yeah.
forget the name of it. It was just a really cool gadget. I loved all the gadgets and stuff that they showed out in here. Dylan, you mentioned like the compass. I loved all the gadgets. I'm a huge fan of gadgets. Talked about them a lot in the James Bond retro.
Yeah.
It was just really cool to see more of like the tools and stuff that they used in this world. And again, it's just more world building, right? Like, so I loved all that stuff. But that scene in particular, because they're in there for a while, and you get to see like around them, it seems like they're harvesting like their excess moisture. Just all the little details. It just made it look really, really fun and cool. And yeah, I think that's all the notes I have. So
Nice.
what are we rating this bad boy? Or
Well,
are
you know
you
me,
rating it? Yeah, you
not a
don't
big,
rate.
not a big
Thumbs up.
rating
Would you
guy.
recommend it to people?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
I think this
There you go.
is absolutely amazing. If you are living in a place where it is safe to go to the theater, then I think you should do that. I feel like this is definitely worth seeing in the theater. I think it's worth it with the 3D. I mean, obviously, I didn't watch it without. Well, I guess I did watch the bit of the streaming as well, and that was without 3D. It was a much worse experience. No. Yeah, definitely go see this movie. Go see it in the theater. I mean, you would probably this recommendation would have been better up front, but yeah, this movie's amazing. I think I'll come back to this movie like I don't know, at least once a year I'll come back and check out this movie. And hopefully we do get a sequel someday. If not, I'll go check out that series. And who knows? I think if they announce, I'm gonna wait till they announce like, okay, we are making a part two, or okay, nah, we're not making a part two. If they aren't, then I think at that point I'll go check out the books. But if not, then I think I'll just wait for the next movie. But I really hope we do get more. I love this is my favorite movie I've seen in a really long time. Really special, and I'm really glad I saw it in the theater. I felt like that was just this is going to be one of the most memorable like theater experiences I think for me ever. I think it was very much a cinematic experience that would have been so much worse if I watched it on my home TV. And you know that's kind of been a bummer too. Like watching Saw on my like computer, it just doesn't have the same feel as going to a theater and seeing this epic Hans Zimmer score through like these speakers that are bigger than my whole house. You know, it's that whole experience, and I'm so glad I saw this movie. It was really fun doing the review with you guys, and yeah, everyone go watch this movie. I'm probably gonna go watch it again like tomorrow because I just love it. But no number for me. This is the best movie ever. There you go. That's my review.
Best movie ever. High praise.
Yeah.
Taylor Field, what do you think of the movie?
It's a 10 out of 10. I mean, no denying it. The score is absolutely killer. The development, the houses, the characters, everything. Just it's so great. And then the scenery, fan freaking tastic. The clash of just how it embodies again futuristic sci-fi with a little bit of like medieval-esque elements in there. It's just such a great combination of elements, and I love it. 10 times over. I'm definitely going to be rewatching this. I definitely hoping and praying every night it gets that sequel. I need it so badly, and if it doesn't, I'll settle for just this, but I hope that they continue on with the storyline because this movie is top tier. You need to watch it. If you haven't watched it and you've gone through this whole review, then brutal, but go watch it.
Thanks for the support, but yeah, brutal. You're a freak. Yeah, I think I'm gonna give this one a 9.5 out of 10. I can't give it a full 10 just because of the way it left me feeling. I'm like, are you kidding me? I need to know more. This will be probably one of those scores that I could see like changing in the future. One, if I never get more, I could see it dropping a little bit just because it left a lot of things open.
Yeah,
and
definitely.
I don't think I can really give too much. Like I can't blame this movie for that reason, you know, because like if we had more, this movie's like just stellar 10 out of 10 because the things that it hinted to, really really good. But if I never get more, I'll be really really sad about it because I truly think that this movie and this series could be something very special. It could be like I was mentioning, like almost like a Lord of the Rings type thing, where it's just introducing so many new concepts to like this sci-fi genre. Just so like there's just such great world building in this, and I just want to know so much more. And yeah, I need to get more. Everybody, go buy this movie. Buy 3 tickets if you have to. Just support it. I need to get more. And yeah, it was just phenomenal. I praised the Hans Zimmer. I praised all the actors. It was just top tier. And like this, like the visuals and the CGI in this, I'm like, I'm like looking for like, okay, where's the one bad spot that makes the CGI look like not that good. It was so spectacular. I'm like, man, Denis was like finding its real ships to shoot this because it looks like real life. It looks so
He found
good.
a desert planet. Yeah.
Yeah, just the scale of the ships when they would have like the close-ups in them. It's just like, man, this is sci-fi, and I'm loving it. I'm loving the technologies that we have these days to just make it seem so goddamn real. Yeah, no, it was phenomenal experience, but I think I can't quite give it a full 10 because of just certain pacing issues I had in the beginning and just answers I wanted or questions I wanted answered. So for that reason, yeah, 9.5 out of 10. There it is.
Cool.
That's the end of our review.
That's the Dune Part 1 review.
Yeah, Part 1 review. Tune in next time for the Part 2 to be determined on that. That was fun though. Fun discussing the movie with you guys. Thanks for joining. I guess I'll just lead us off. We've already posted all of our social media links and everything like that. Tune in next time. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Later.
Oh, he didn't even end the broadcast. He just got out.
The hard
Okay,
out
I'm
from Kirklin.
the hard out. I'm gonna end the broadcast.